Welcome, Wapham crew, guys, gals, ghouls, friends, fiends, foes, whoever may be listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on Rocky Mountain High, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, July 7th, Monday, July 8th for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. I'm so glad you could join us this evening for story time with me, TessaTNT. If you are listening live right now, you may be listening to us on Spreaker.com under We Are Paradox Media. You can also find us on Facebook under We Are Paradox Media, as well as YouTube, We Are Paradox Media, and Twitch on We Are Paradox Media. If you want to listen in your free time, whether you're working it, or working out, feel free to find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. So tonight for story time with me, TessaTNT, we are getting into Douglas Adams' The Restaurant. At the end of the universe, I keep wanting to say galaxy, but it is indeed the universe. Hopefully we won't have any tech issues this evening, but we shall see what we shall see. And it is hot and muggy today. How are you guys doing? How's your temperatures where you guys are at? So, Chapter 8. So, do we just sit here or what? Said Zaphod angrily. What do these guys out here want? You, Beeblebrox, said Roosta. They're going to take you to the Frog Star, the most totally evil world in the galaxy. Oh yeah, said Zaphod. They'll have to come get me first. They have come and got you, said Roosta. Look out the window. Zaphod looked and gaped. The ground's going away, he gasped. Where are they taking the ground? They're taking the building, said Roosta. We're airborne. Clouds streaked past the office window. Out in the open air again, Zaphod could see the ring of dark green Frogstar fighters around the unrooted tower of the building. A network of force beams radiated in from them and held the tower in a firm grip. Zaphod shook his head in perplexity. What have I done to deserve this? He said. I walk into a building, and they take it away. It's not what you've done they're worried about, said Roosta. It's what you're going to do. Well, don't I get a say in that? You did, years ago. You'd better hold on. We're in for a fast and bumpy journey. If I ever met myself, said Zaphod, I'll hit myself so hard I won't know what's hit me. Marvin trudged in through the door, looked at Zaphod accusingly, slumped in a corner, and switched himself off. On the bridge of the Heart of Gold, all was silent. Arthur stared at the rack in front of him and thought. He caught Trillion's eyes as she looked at him inquiringly. He looked back at the rack. Finally, he saw it. He picked up 5 small plastic squares and laid them on the board that lay just in front of the rack. 5 squares had on them the 5 letters E, X, Q, U, and I. He laid them next to the letters S, I, T, and E. Exquisite, he said. On a triple word score. Score's rather a lot, I'm afraid. The ship bumped and scattered some of the letters for the nth time. Trillion sighed and started to sort them out again. Up and down the silent corridors echoed Ford Prefect's feet as he stalked the ship, thumping dead instruments. Why did the ship keep shaking, he thought. Why did it rock and sway? Why could he not find out where they were? Where basically were they? The left-hand tower of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy office is streaked through the interstellar space at a speed never equaled, either before or since, by any other office block in the universe. In a room halfway up it, Zaphod Beeblebrox strode angrily. Roosta sat on the edge of the desk doing some routine towel maintenance. Hey, where did you say this building was flying to? Demanded Zaphod. The Frog Star, said Roosta, the most totally evil place in the universe. Do they have food there? Said Zaphod. Food? You're going to the Frog Star, and you're worried about whether they've got food? Without food, I may not make it to the Frog Star. Out of the window, they could see nothing but the flickering light of the force beams, and vague green streaks which were presumably the distorted shapes of the Frogstar fighters. This speed space itself was invisible and indeed unreal. "Here, suck this," said Rusta, offering Zaphod his towel. Zaphod stared at him as if he expected a cuckoo to leap out of his forehead on a small spring. "It's soaked in nutrients," explained Rusta. "What are you, a messy eater or something?" said Zaphod. The yellow stripes are high in protein. The green ones have vitamin B and C complexes. The little pink flowers contain wheat germ extract. Zaphod took and looked at it in amazement. "What are the brown stains?" he asked. "Barbecue sauce," said Rusta, "for when I get sick of wheat germ." Zaphod sniffed it doubtfully. Even more doubtfully, he sucked a corner. He spat it out again. "Ugh," he stated. "Yes," said Rusta. "When I've had to suck at that end, I usually need to suck the other end a bit too." "Why?" asked Zaphod suspiciously. "What's in that?" "Antidepressants," said Rusta. "I've gone right off this towel, you know," said Zaphod, handing it back. Rusta took it back from him, swung himself off the desk, walked around it, sat in the chair, and put his feet up. "Beeblebrox," he said, sticking his hands behind his head, "have you any idea what's going to happen to you on the Frogstar?" "They're going to feed me?" hazarded Zaphod hopefully. "They are going to feed you," said Rusta, "into the total perspective vortex." Zaphod had never heard of this. He believed that he had heard of all the fun things in the galaxy, so he assumed that the total perspective vortex was not fun. He asked Rusta what it was. "Only," said Rusta, "the most savage psychic torture a sentient being can undergo." Zaphod nodded a resigned nod. "So," he said, "no food, huh?" "Listen," said Rusta urgently. "You can kill a man, destroy his body, break his spirit, but only the total perspective vortex can annihilate a man's soul. The treatment lasts seconds, but the effects last the rest of your life." "You ever had a pan-galactic gargle blaster?" asked Zaphod sharply. "This is worse." "Friow?" admitted Zaphod, much impressed. "Any idea why these guys might want to do this to me?" he added a moment later. "They believe it will be the best way of destroying you forever. They know what you're after. Could they drop me and let me know as well?" "You know," said Rusta. "You know, Beeblebrox. You want to meet the man who rules the universe." "Can he cook?" said Zaphod. On reflection, he added, "I doubt if he can. If he could cook a good meal, he wouldn't worry about the rest of the universe. I want to meet a cook." Rusta sighed heavily. "What are you doing here anyways?" demanded Zaphod. "What's all this got to do with you?" "I'm just one of those who planned this thing along with Zarnaboo, along with Yuden Ranks, along with your great-grandfather, along with you, Beeblebrox." "Me?" "Yes, you. I was told you had changed. I didn't realize how much, but I'm here to do one job. I will do it before I leave you." "What job, man? What are you talking about?" "I will do it before I leave you." Rusta lapsed into an impenetrable silence. Zaphod was terribly glad. Chapter 9. The air around the second planet of the Frogstar system was stale and unwholesome. The dank winds that swept continually over its surface swept over salt flats, dried up marshland, tangled and rotting vegetation, and the crumbling remains of ruined cities. No life moved across its surface. The ground, like that of many planets in this part of the galaxy, had long been deserted. The howl of the wind was desolate enough as it gusted through the old decaying houses of the city. It was more desolate as it whipped about the bottoms of the tall black towers that swayed uneasily here and there about the surface of this world. At the top of these towers lived colonies of large, scraggy, evil-smelling birds, the sole survivors of the civilization that once lived here. The howl of the wind was at its most desolate, however, when it passed over a pimple of a place set in the middle of the wide gray plain on the outskirts of the largest of the abandoned cities. This pimple of a place was the thing that had earned this world the reputation of being the most totally evil place in the galaxy. From without it was simply a still dome, about 30 feet across. From within it was something more monstrous than the mind can comprehend. About 100 yards or so away, and separated from it by a pockmarked and blasted stretch of the most barren land imaginable, was what would probably have been described as a landing pad of sorts. That is to say that scattered over the largest area were the ungainly hulks of 2 or 3 dozen crash-landed buildings. Flitting over and around these buildings was a mind that was waiting for something. The mind directed its attention into the air, and before very long a distant speck appeared, surrounded by a ring of smaller specks. The larger speck was the left-hand tower of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy Office building, descending through the stratosphere of Frogstar World B. As it descended, Roosta suddenly broke the long, uncomfortable silence that had grown up between the two men. He stood up and gathered his towel into a bag. He said, "Beeblebrox, I will now do the job I was sent here to do." Zaphod looked up at him from where he was sitting in the corner sharing unspoken thoughts with Marvin. "Yeah," he said, "the building will shortly be landing. When you leave the building, do not go out of the door," said Roosta. "Go out of the window." "Good luck," he added, and walked out of the door, disappearing from Zaphod's life as mysteriously as he had entered it. Zaphod leaped up and tried the door, but Roosta had already locked it. He shrugged and returned to the corner. 2 minutes later, the building crash-landed amongst the other wreckage. This escort of Frogstar fighters deactivated their force beams and soared off into the air again, bound for Frogstar World A, an altogether more congenial spot. They never landed on Frogstar World B. No one did. No one ever walked on its surface other than the intended victims of the total perspective vortex. Zaphod was badly shaken by the crash. He lay for a while in the silent, dusty rubble, to which most of the room had been reduced. He felt that he was at the lowest ebb he had ever reached in his life. He felt bewildered. He felt lonely. He felt unloved. Eventually, he felt he ought to get whatever it was over with. He looked around the cracked and broken room. The wall had split around the doorframe, and the door hung open. The window, by some miracle, was closed and unbroken. For a while he hesitated, then thought that his strange and recent companion had been through all that he had been through just to tell him what he had told him. Then there must be a good reason for it. With Marvin's help, he got the window open. Outside it, the cloud of dust aroused by the crash and the hulks of the other buildings, with which this one was surrounded, effectively prevented Zaphod from seeing anything of the world outside. Not that this concerned him unduly. His main concern was what he saw when he looked down. Zarniwap's office was on the 15th floor. The building had landed at its tilt of about 45 degrees, but still the descent looked heart-stopping. Eventually, stung by the continuous series of contemptuous looks that Marvin appeared to be giving him, he took a deep breath and clambered out onto the steeply inclining side of the building. Marvin followed him, and together they began to crawl slowly and painfully down the 15 floors that separated them from the ground. As he crawled, the dark air and the dust choked his lungs. His eyes smarted, and the terrific distance down made his head spin. The occasional remark from Marvin of the order of, "This is the sort of thing you lifeforms enjoy, is it?" I asked merely for information. Did little to improve his state of mind. About halfway down the side of the shattered building, they stopped to rest. It seemed to Zaphod as he lay there, panting with fear and exhaustion, that Marvin seemed a mite more cheerful than usual. Eventually, he realized this wasn't so. The robot just seemed cheerful in comparison with his own mood. A large, scraggy blackbird came flying through the slowly setting clouds of dust and, stretching down its scrawny legs, landed on an inclined window ledge a couple of yards from Zaphod. It folded its ungainly wings and teetered awkwardly on its perch. Its wingspan must have been something like 6 feet, and its head and neck seemed curiously large for a bird. Its face was flat, the beak underdeveloped, and halfway along the underside of its wings, the vestiges of something hand-like could be clearly seen. In fact, it looked almost human. It turned its heavy eyes on Zaphod and clicked its beak in a desultory fashion. "Go away," said Zaphod. "Okay," muttered the bird morosely and flapped off into the dust again. Zaphod watched its departure in bewilderment. "Did that bird just talk to me?" he asked Marvin nervously. He was quite prepared to believe that the alternative explanation that he was in fact hallucinating. "Yes," confirmed Marvin. "Poor souls," said a deep, ethereal voice in Zaphod's ear. Twisting around violently to find the source of the voice nearly caused Zaphod to fall off the building. He grabbed savagely at the protruding window fitting the cut and cut his hand on it. He hung on, breathing heavily. The voice had no visible source whatsoever. There was no one there. Nevertheless, it spoke again. "A tragic history behind them, you know, a terrible blight." Zaphod looked wildly about. The voice was deep and quiet. In other circumstances, it would even be described as soothing. There is, however, nothing soothing about being addressed by a disembodied voice out of nowhere, particularly when you are, like Zaphod Beeblebrox, not at your best and hanging from a ledge 8 stories up a crashed building. "Hey, he stammered. "Shall I tell you their story?" inquired the voice quietly. "Hey, who are you?" panted Zaphod. "Where are you?" "Later then, perhaps," murmured the voice. "I am Gargravar. I am the custodian of the total perspective vortex." "Why can I see you?" "You will find your progress down the building greatly facilitated," the voice lifted. "If you move about 2 yards to your left, why don't you try it?" Zaphod looked and saw a series of short horizontal grooves leading all the way down the side of the building. Gratefully, he shifted himself across them. "Why don't I see you again at the bottom?" said the voice in his ear, and as it spoke, it faded. "Hey!" called Zaphod. "Where are you?" "It'll only take a couple of minutes," said the voice very faintly. "Marvin," said Zaphod earnestly to the robot squatting dejectedly next to him, Did a voice just—" "Yes," Marvin replied tersely. Zaphod nodded. He took out his peril-sensitive sunglasses again. They were completely black and by now quite badly scratched by the unexpected metal object in his pocket. He put them on. He would find his way down the building more comfortably if he didn't actually have to look at what he was doing. Minutes later, he clambered over the ripped and mangled foundations of the building, and once more removing his sunglasses, he dropped to the ground. Marvin joined him a moment or so later and lay face down in the dust and rubble, from which position he seemed disinclined to move. "Ah, there you are," said the voice suddenly in Zaphod's ear. "Excuse me, leaving you like that. It's just that I have a terrible head of heights. At least," it added wistfully, "I did have a terrible head for heights." Zaphod looked around slowly and carefully, just to see if he had missed something which might be the source of the voice. All he saw, however, was the dust, the rubble, and the towering hulks of the encircling buildings. "Hey, why can't I see you?" he said. "Why aren't you here?" "I am here," said the voice slowly. "My body wanted to come, but it's a bit busy at the moment. Things to do, people to see." After what seemed like the sort of ethereal sigh, it added, "You know how it is with bodies." Zaphod wasn't sure about this. "I thought I did," he said. "I only hope it's gone in for a rest cure," continued the voice. "The way it's been living recently, it must be on its last elbows." "Elbows?" said Zaphod. "Don't you mean last legs?" The voice said nothing for a while. Zaphod looked around uneasily. He didn't know if it had gone or was still there or what it was doing. Then the voice spoke again. "So you are to put into the vortex, yes?" Well, said Zaphod with a very poor attempt at nonchalance. This cat's in no hurry, you know. I can just slouch about and take in a look at the local scenery, you know. Have you seen the local scenery? Asked the voice of Gargravar. No. Zaphod clambered over the rubble and rounded the corner of one of the wrecked buildings that was obscuring his view. He looked at the landscape of Frogstar World B. Ah, okay, he said. You just sort of slouch about then. No, said Gargravar. The vortex is ready for you now. You must come. Follow me. Yeah, said Zaphod. And how am I meant to do that? I'll hum for you, said Gargravar. Follow the humming. The soft keening sound drifted through the air, a pale, sad sound that seemed to be without any kind of focus. It was only by listening very carefully that Zaphod was able to detect the direction from which it was coming. Slowly, dazzledly, he stumbled off in its wake. What else was there to do? Chapter 10. The universe has been observed before as an unsettling big place, a fact which, for the sake of a quiet life, most people tend to ignore. Many would happily move to somewhere rather smaller of their own devising, and this is what most beings in fact do. For instance, in one corner of the eastern galactic arm lies the large forest planet Oglaroon, the entire intelligent population of which lives permanently in one fairly small and crowded nut tree, in which tree they are born, live, fall in love, carve tiny speculative articles in the bark on the meaning of life, the futility of death, and the importance of birth control. Fight a few extremely minor wars and eventually die strapped to the underside of some of the less accessible outer branches. In fact, the only Oglaroonians who ever leave their tree are those who are hurled out of it for the heinous crime of wondering whether any of the other trees might be capable of supporting life at all, or indeed whether the other trees are anything other than illusions brought on by eating too many ogle nuts. Exotic though this behavior may seem, there is no life form in the galaxy which is not in some way guilty of the same thing, which is why the total perspective vortex is as horrific as it is. For when you are put into the vortex, you are given just one momentary glimpse of the entire unimaginable infinity of creation, and somewhere in it a tiny little marker, a microscopic dot on the microscopic dot, which says, "You are here." The gray plain stretched before Zaphod, a ruined, shattered plain. The wind whipped wildly over it. Visible in the middle was the steel pimple of the dome. This, gathered Zaphod, was where he was going. This was the total perspective vortex. As he stood and gazed obliquely at it, a sudden, inhuman wail of terror emanated from it, as of a man having his soul burned from his body. It screamed above the wind and died away. Zaphod started with fear, and his blood seemed to turn to liquid helium. "Hey, what was that?" he muttered voicelessly. "A recording," said Gargravar, "of the last man who was put in the vortex. It is always played to the next victim, a sort of prelude." "Hey, it really sounds bad," stammered Zaphod. "Couldn't we maybe slip off to a party or something for a while? Think it over." "For all I know," said Gargravar's ethereal voice, "I'm probably at one. My body, that is. It goes to a lot of parties without me. Says it only gets in the way. Hey-ho." "What is all this with your body?" said Zaphod, anxious to delay whatever it was that was going to happen to him. "Well, it's busy, you know," said Gargravar, hesitantly. "You mean it's got a mind of its own?" said Zaphod. There was a long and slightly chilly pause before Gargravar spoke again. "I have to say," he replied eventually, "that I find that remark in rather poor taste." Zaphod muttered a bewildered and embarrassed apology. "No matter," said Gargravar. "You weren't to know." The voice fluttered unhappily. "The truth is," it continued in tones which suggested he was trying very hard to keep it under control, "the truth is that we are currently undergoing a period of legal trial separation. I suspect it will end in divorce." voice was still again leaving Zaphod with no idea of what to say. He mumbled uncertainly. I think we were probably not very well suited, said Gargavar again at length. We never seemed to be happy doing the same things. We always had the greatest arguments over sex and fishing. Eventually we tried to combine the two, but that only led to disaster, as you can probably imagine. And now my body refuses to let me in. Won't even see me. He paused again tragically. The wind whipped across the plain. It says I only inhibit it. I pointed out that, in fact, I was meant to inhabit it. And it said that that was exactly the sort of smart-aleck remark that got right up a body's left nostril. And so we left it. I will probably get custody of the forname. Oh, said Zaphod faintly. And what's that? Pisspot, said the voice. My name is Pisspot Gargavar. Says it all really, doesn't it? Said Zaphod sympathetically. And that is why I, as a disembodied mind, have this job, custodian of the total perspective vortex. No one will ever walk on the ground of this planet except the victims of the vortex. They don't really count, I'm afraid. Ah. I'll tell you the story. Would you like to hear it? Many years ago, this was a thriving, happy planet. People, cities, shops, a normal world. Except that on the high streets of these cities, there were slightly more shoe shops than one might have thought necessary. And slowly, insidiously, the numbers of these shoe shops were increasing. It's a well-known economic phenomenon, but tragic to see it in operation. For the more shoe shops there were, the more shoes they had to make, and the worse and more unwearable they became. And the worse they were to wear. And the more people had to buy to keep themselves shod, and the more the shops proliferated, until the whole economy of the place passed what I believe is termed the shoe event horizon, and it became no longer economically possible to build anything other than shoe shops. Result? Collapse, ruin, and famine. Most of the population died out. Those few who had the right kind of genetic instability mutated into birds. You've seen one of them, who cursed their feet, cursed the ground, and vowed that none should walk on it again. Unhappy lot. Come, I must take you to the vortex. Zaphod shook his head in bemusement and stumbled forward across the plain. And you, he said, you come from this hellhole pit, do you? No, said Gargavar, taken aback. I come from the Frogstar World Sea, beautiful place. Wonderful fishing. A flip back there in the evenings, though all I can do now is watch. The total perspective vortex is the only thing on this planet with any function. It was built here because no one else wanted it on their doorstep. At that moment, another dismal scream rent the air, and Zaphod shuddered. What can do that to a guy? He breathed. The universe, said Gargavar, simply. The whole infinite universe, the infinite suns, the infinite distances between them and yourself, an invisible dot on an invisible dot, infinitely small. Hey, I'm Zaphod Beeblebrox, man. You know, muttered Zaphod, trying to flap the last remnants of his ego. Gargavar made no reply, but merely resumed his mournful humming, till they reached the tarnished steel dome in the middle of the plain. As they reached, a door hummed open in the side, revealing a small darkened chamber within. Enter, said Gargavar. Zaphod started with fear. Hey, what now? He said. Now. Zaphod peered nervously inside. The chamber was very small. It was still lined, and there was hardly space in it for more than one man. It, doesn't look like any kind of vortex to me, said Zaphod. It isn't, said Gargavar. It's just the elevator. Enter. With infinite trepidation, Zaphod stepped into it. He was aware of Gargavar being in the elevator with him, though the disembodied man was not for the moment speaking. The elevator began its descent. I must get myself into the right frame of mind for this, muttered Zaphod. There is no right frame of mind, said Gargavar, silently and sternly. You really know make a guy feel inadequate. I don't. The vortex does. At the bottom of the shaft, the rear of the elevator opened up and Zaphod stumbled out into a smallish, functional, still-lined chamber. At the far side of it stood a single, upright steel box, just large enough for a man to stand in. It was that simple. It connected to a small pile of components and instruments via a single thick wire. "Is that it?" said Zaphod in surprise. That is it." Didn't look too bad, thought Zaphod. "And I get in there, do I?" said Zaphod. "You get in there," said Gargavar, "and I'm afraid you must do it now." Okay, said Zaphod. He opened the door of the box and stepped in. Inside the box he waited. After 5 seconds there was a click, and the entire universe was there in the box with him. Chapter 11. Total perspective vortex derives its picture of the whole universe on the principle of extrapolated matter analysis. To explain, since every piece of matter in the universe is in some way affected by every other piece of matter in the universe, it is, in theory, possible to extrapolate the whole of creation. Every sun, every planet, their orbits, their composition, and their economic and social history from, say, one small piece of fairy cake. The man who invented the total perspective vortex did so basically in order to annoy his wife. I'm just going to check my sound really quick because my only listener is gone. Alright, everything looks like it's bouncing good. If there's any issues, please just feel free to let me know. The man who invented the total perspective vortex did so basically in order to annoy his wife. Trintragula, for that was his name, was a dreamer, a thinker, a speculative philosopher, or, as his wife would have it, idiot. And she would nag him incessantly about the utterly inordinate amount of time he spent staring out into space, or mulling over the mechanics of safety pins, or doing spectrographic analysis of pieces of fairy cake. Have some sense of proportion, she would say. Sometimes it's often as 38 times in a single day. And so he built the total perspective vortex just to show her. And into one end he plugged the whole of reality as extrapolated from a piece of fairy cake. And into the other end he plugged his wife, so that when he turned it on, she saw in one instant the whole infinity of creation and herself in relation to it. To Trintragula's horror, the shock completely annihilated her brain. But to his satisfaction, he realized that he had proved conclusively that if life is going to exist in a universe of this size, then one thing it cannot afford to have is a sense of proportion. The door of the vortex swung open. From his disembodied mind, Gargravar watched dejectedly. He had rather liked Zaphod Beeblebrox in a strange sort of way. He was clearly a man of many qualities, even if they were mostly bad ones. He waited for him to flop forward out of the box, as they all did. Instead, he stepped out. "Hi," he said. "Beeblebrox," gasped Gargravar's mind in amazement. "Could I have a drink, please?" said Zaphod. You have been in the vortex?" stammered Gargravar. "You saw me, kid." "And it was working?" "Sure was. And you saw the whole infinity of creation. Sure, a really neat place, you know that?" Gargravar's mind was reeling in astonishment. Had his body been with him, it would have sat down heavily with its mouth hanging open. "And you saw yourself," said Gargravar in relation to it all. "Oh, yeah. But what did you experience?" Zaphod shrugged smugly. "It just told me what I knew all the time. I'm a really terrific and great guy. Didn't I tell you, baby? I'm Zaphod Beeblebrox." His gaze passed over the machinery which powered the vortex and suddenly stopped startled. He breathed heavily. "Hey," he said, "is that really a piece of fairy cake?" He ripped the small piece of confectionery from the sensors with which it was surrounded. If I told you how much I needed this, he said ravenously, I wouldn't have time to eat it. And he ate it. Chapter 12. A short while later, he was running across the plain in the direction of the ruined city. The dank air wheezed heavily in his lungs, and he frequently stumbled with the exhaustion he was still feeling. Night was beginning to fall too, and the rough ground was treacherous. The elation of his recent experience was still with him, though. The whole universe. He had seen the whole universe stretching to infinity around him, everything. And with it had come the clear and extraordinary knowledge that he was the most important thing in it. Having a conceited ego is one thing, actually being told by a machine is another. He didn't have time to reflect on this matter. Darvar had told him that he would have to alert his masters as to what had happened, but that he was prepared to leave a decent interval before doing so. Enough time for Zaphod to make a break and find somewhere to hide. What he was doing, or going to do, he didn't know, but feeling that he was the most important person in the universe gave him the confidence to believe something would turn up. Nothing else on this blighted planet could give him much grounds for optimism. He ran on and soon reached the outskirts of the abandoned city. He walked along the cracked and gaping roads riddled with scrawny weeds, the holes filled with rotting shoes. The buildings he passed were so crumbled and decrepit, he thought it unsafe to enter any of them. Where could he hide? He hurried on. After a while, the remains of a wide sweeping road led off from the one down which he was walking, and at its end lay a vast low building, surrounded with sundry smaller ones. The whole surrounded by the remains of a perimeter barrier. The large main building still seemed reasonably solid, and Zaphod turned off to see if it might provide him with anything. He approached the building along one side of it, the front, it would seem, since it faced a wide concrete apron area, were 3 gigantic doors, maybe 60 feet high. The far one of these was open, and toward this Zaphod ran. Inside, all was gloom, dust, and confusion. Giant cobwebs lay over everything. Part of the infrastructure of the building had collapsed. Part of the rear wall had caved in, and a thick choking dust lay inches over the floor. Through the heavy gloom, huge shapes loomed, covered with debris. The shapes were sometimes cylindrical, sometimes bulbous, sometimes like eggs, or rather cracked eggs. Most of them were split open or falling apart. Some were mere skeletons. They were all spacecraft, derelict. Zaphod wandered in frustration among the hulks. There was nothing here that remotely approached the serviceable. Even the mere vibration of his footsteps caused one precarious wreck to collapse further into itself. For the rear of the building lay one old ship, slightly larger than the others, and buried beneath even deeper piles of dust and cobwebs. Its outline, however, seemed unbroken. Zaphod approached it with interest, and as he did so, he tripped over an old feed line. He tried to toss the feed line aside, and to his surprise discovered that it was still connected to the ship. To his utter astonishment, he realized that the feed line was also humming slightly. He stared at the ship in disbelief, and then back down at the feed line in his hands. He tore off his jacket and threw it aside. Crawling along on his hands and knees, he followed the feed line to the point where it connected to the ship. The connection was sound, and the slight humming vibration was more distinct. His heart was beating fast. He wiped away some grime and laid an ear against the ship's side. He could hear only a faint, undetermined noise. He rummaged feverishly among the debris, lying on the floor all about him, and found a short length of tubing and a non-biodegradable plastic cup. Out of this he fashioned a crude stethoscope and placed it against the side of the ship. What he heard made his brains turn somersaults. The voice said, "Transstellar Cruise Lines would like to apologize to passengers for the continuing delay to this flight. We're currently awaiting the loading of our complement of small lemon-soaked paper napkins for your comfort, refreshment, and hygiene during the journey. Meanwhile, we thank you for your patience." The cabin crew will shortly be serving coffee and biscuits again. Zaphod staggered backwards, staring wildly at the ship. He walked around for a few moments in a daze. In so doing, he suddenly caught sight of a giant departure board still hanging, but by only one support, from the ceiling above him. It was covered with grime, but some of the figures were still discernible. Zaphod's eyes searched among the figures, then made some brief calculations. His eyes widened. 900 years, he breathed to himself. That was how late the ship was. 2 minutes later, he was on board. As he stepped out of the airlock, the air that greeted him was cool and fresh. The air conditioning was still working. The lights were still on. He moved out of the small entrance chamber into a short, narrow corridor and stepped nervously down it. Suddenly, a door opened and a figure stepped out in front of him. "Please return to your seat, sir," said the android stewardess. And turning her back on him, she walked on down the corridor in front of him. When his heart had started beating again, he followed her. She opened the door at the end of the corridor and walked through. He followed her through the door. They were now in the passenger compartment, and Zaphod's heart stopped still again for a moment. In every seat sat a passenger, strapped into his or her seat. The passenger's hair was long and unkempt. Their fingernails were long. The men wore beards. All of them were quite clearly alive, but sleeping. Zaphod had the creeping horrors. He walked slowly down the aisle as in a dream. By the time he was halfway down the aisle, the stewardess had reached the other end. She turned and spoke. "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen," she said sweetly. "Thank you for bearing with us during this slight delay. We will be taking off as soon as we possibly can. If you would like to wake up now, I will serve you coffee and biscuits." There was a slight hum. At that moment, all the passengers awoke. They awoke screaming and clawing at the straps and life support systems that held them tightly in their seats. They screamed and bawled and hollered till Zaphod thought his ears would shatter. They struggled and writhed as the stewardess patiently moved up the aisle, placing a cup of coffee and a packet of biscuits in front of each one of them. Then one of them rose from his seat. He turned and looked at Zaphod. Zaphod's skin was crawling all over his body as if it was trying to get off. He turned and ran from the bedlam. He plunged through the door and back into the corridor. The man pursued him. He raced in a frenzy to the end of the corridor, through the entrance chamber and beyond. He arrived on the flight deck, slammed the bolted door behind him. He leaned back against the door, breathing hard. Within seconds, a hand started beating on the door. From somewhere on the flight deck, a metallic voice addressed him. "Passengers not allowed on the flight deck. Please return to your seat and wait for the ship to take off. Coffee and biscuits are being served. This is your autopilot speaking. Please return to your seat." Zaphod said nothing. He breathed hard. Behind him, the hand continued to knock on the door. "Please return to your seat," repeated the autopilot. "Passengers are not allowed on the flight deck." "I'm not a passenger," panted Zaphod. "Please return to your seat." "I'm not a passenger," shouted Zaphod again. "Please return to your seat." "I'm not a... Hello, can you hear me?" "Please return to your seat." "You're the autopilot?" said Zaphod. "Yes," said the voice from the flight console. "You're in charge of this ship." "Yes," said the voice again. "There has been a delay. Passengers are to be kept temporarily in a suspended animation for their comfort and convenience. Coffee and biscuits are served every year, after which passengers are returned to suspended animation for their continued comfort and convenience. Departure will take place when the flight stores are complete. We apologize for the delay." Zaphod moved away from the door, on which the pounding now ceased. He approached the flight console. "Delay?" he cried. "Have you seen the world outside this ship? It's a wasteland, a desert. Civilization's been gone, man. There are no lemon-soaked paper napkins on the way from anywhere." "The statistical likelihood," continued the autopilot primly, "is that other civilizations will arise. There will one day be lemon-soaked paper napkins. Till then, there will be a short delay. Please return to your seat." But at that moment, the door opened. Zaphod spun around to see the man who had pursued him standing there. He carried a large briefcase. He was smartly dressed and his hair was short. He had no beard and no long fingernails. Zaphod Beeblebrox, he said, my name is Zarnywhoop. I believe you wanted to see me. Zaphod Beeblebrox withered. His mouth said foolish things. He dropped into a chair. Oh man, where did you spring from, he said. I've been waiting here for you, he said in a businesslike tone. He put the briefcase down and sat in another chair. I'm glad you followed instructions, he said. I was a bit nervous that you might have left my office by the door rather than the window. Then you had been in trouble. Zaphod shook his head at him and burbled. When you entered the door of my office, you entered my electronically synthesized universe. Excuse me. He explained. If you had left by the door, you would have been back in the real one. The artificial one works from here. He patted his briefcase smugly. Zaphod glared at him with resentment and loathing. What's the difference? He muttered. Nothing, said Zarnywhoop. They are identical, except that I think the Frogstar fighters are gray in the real universe. What's going on? Spat Zaphod. Simple, said Zarnywhoop. His self-assurance and smugness made Zaphod seethe. Very simple, repeated Zarnywhoop. I discovered the coordinates at which this man could be found. The man who rules the universe, and discovered that his world was protected by an improbability field. To protect my secret and myself, I retreated to the safety of this totally artificial universe and hid myself away in a forgotten cruise liner. I was secure. Meanwhile, you and I, said Zaphod angrily. You mean I knew you? Yes, said Zarnywhoop. We knew each other well. I had no taste, said Zaphod, and resumed a sullen silence. Meanwhile, you and I arranged that you would steal the improbability drive ship, the only one which could reach the ruler's world, and bring it to me here. This you have now done, I trust, and I congratulate you. He smiled a tight little smile which Zaphod wanted to hit with a brick. Oh, and in case you were wondering, added Zarnywhoop, this universe was created specifically for you to come to. You are therefore the most important person in this universe. You would never, he said with an even more brickable smile, have survived the total perspective vortex in the real one. Shall we go? Where? Said Zaphod sullenly. He felt collapsed. To your ship, the Heart of Gold. You did bring it, I trust. No. Where's your jacket? Zaphod looked at him in mystification. My jacket? I took it off. It's outside. Good. We will go and find it. Zarnywhoop stood up and gestured to Zaphod to follow him. Out in the entrance chamber again, they could hear the screams of the passengers being fed coffee and biscuits. It has not been a pleasant experience waiting for you, said Zarnywhoop. Not pleasant for you? bawled Zaphod. How do you think? Zarnywhoop held up a silencing finger as the hatchway swung open. A few feet away from them, they could see Zaphod's jacket lying in the debris. A very remarkable and very powerful ship, said Zarnywhoop. Watch. As they watched, the pocket on the jacket suddenly bulged. It split. It ripped. The small metal model of the Heart of Gold that Zaphod had been bewildered to discover in his pocket was growing. It grew. It continued to grow. It reached, after 2 minutes, its full size. At an improbability level, said Zarnywhoop, of, I don't know, but something very large. Zaphod swayed. You mean I had it with me all the time? Zarnywhoop smiled. He lifted up his briefcase and opened it. He twisted a single switch inside of it. Goodbye, artificial universe, he said. Hello, real one. The scene before them shimmered briefly and reappeared exactly as before. You see, said Zarnywhoop, exactly the same. You mean, repeated Zaphod tautly, that I had it with me all the time? Oh yes, said Zarnywhoop, of course. That was the whole point. That's it, said Zaphod. You can count me out. From here on in, you can count me out. I've had all I want of this. You play your own games, man. I'm afraid you cannot leave, said Zarnywhoop. You are entwined in the improbability field. You cannot escape. He smiled a smile that Zaphod had wanted to hit. And this time, Zaphod hit it. Hit it. Alright, so on that note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our first music break. On this break, we have Mr. Jeff Hilliard from Los Angeles, California, with Finger Bang Your Day, Consensual Sex, Van, Cock That Hills, Multitude, and Silicone Wave. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
When your life is a never-ending train wreck, and you feel like you're drowning in a sea of regret, with a bit of oppression pressing down on your neck, it hurts so bad. When your overwhelming hatred kills your heart's desire, and reality starts looking like a dumpster fire, you start bitching to me, but you're preaching to the choir. You don't need to be so mad. 'Cause sometimes we hurt, sometimes we cry, sometimes we're sure there's no reason to try. When the whole world goes completely insane, open your heart, stand up and sing. I'm gonna finger bang my day. Yeah, yeah, I'll finger bang my day. That's right. You gotta make the choice to give it all you've got, and make your day long with pleasure, really make it hot. Because your day deserves a lover that pulls out the stops. Come on, it's not so hard. 'Cause sometimes we hurt, sometimes we cry, sometimes we're sure there's no reason to try. When the whole world blows up in our face, what else could we do but stand up and sing? I'm gonna finger bang my day. Yeah, yeah, finger bang my day. Hey, what are we really doing? We can't live in a world that has this much hate. We have to get honest with ourselves. We have to take stock in what our part is in all of this madness. We have to let go, and we focus on giving love, setting that intention. And each and every single one of us gets up every day with the intention to give love. And we do it. We go out there and we give love every single day. Each one of us gets out there and makes love to our day, giving our day a multiple orgasm. The whole world will be orgasmic for the rest of eternity. Sometimes we hurt, sometimes we cry, sometimes we're sure there's no reason to try. When the whole world is fucking insane, we open our hearts, stand up and sing. I'm gonna finger bang my day. Just get in the van.
desperate and pathetic. Nothing but a coward. You're a fool with nothing to offer. No one will ever believe you. They see you for what you are. You're just a fraud, a shell of a person. And now the power and fear to penetrate the demons that have you. They enslave you to the depths of the hate. I am the Juggernaut.
I just got a package, I can't wait to get home. I spent all day tracking the shipment on my phone, all that she was lacking. I ordered custom, I can't wait to get some. Take it to the bedroom, bitches always nagging. Now I got the air, I send the bitches packing, going my way. I have a new attraction, don't care what you say, it's better in every way. Now baby, it's time to play, we're gonna make us a tape and show everyone the way, cause I'm going my way, riding up the Silicon Way. I wanna see on the game with my new real dog. I'm gonna play just second grade to Mount Silicon Way. She is here to stay. She's my new real dog, and it's time to play. She don't need expensive date nights, never talks back, I'm always right. Stuff it in her face with all my might. She don't even care, we don't ever fight. She never cries when I'm testing the suspension. We blow it up like it's fucking Armageddon. We make the videos because this is perfection. Look at this erection, I don't need protection, cause I'm going my way, riding up the Silicon Way. I wanna see on the game with my new real dog. I'm gonna play just second grade to Mount Silicon Way. She is here to stay. She's my new real dog, and it's time to play. With my new real dog, I'm gonna play. She's my new real dog, and it's time to play.
The woman of my dreams.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Fais-moi l'amour.
Je suis amoureux.
Je pense toujours.
Enchanté,
Tu es charmant.
ma chérie. Mon
Tu es
futur
charmant.
dynastie.
Tu
Ils étaient le nipple.
es charmant. Fais-moi l'amour.
It's like living on a super yacht, making love to a robot. It's like owning a football team, but having sex with a robot. It's like winning an Oscar and Emmy and Grammy when you're fucking a robot. It's like saving a family with a newborn from a fire, but you're fucking a robot. I'm going my way, riding up the Silicon Way. I wanna see on the game with my new real dog. I'm gonna play just second grade to Mount Silicon Way. She is here to stay. She's my new real dog, and it's time to
Drop a can it, drip, 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 drop a can it, drip, drop a can it, drip.
I got molar moves, got that molar too. You think it's wrong? I could've had too long. Fuck that. Check these molar moves. You need a molar too. I can do no wrong. Back of the head long, never cut it.
All these hookers sweet on me. Look at them chasing me, showing me that ass. And I banged up snatch. I do this shit for free. Go down your mama till 3. She's taking selfies with the mullet like it's history. How can I maneuver you with that pussy, dude? You sit like Buddha waiting on it to come to you. My lines are straight to the point. She shows me gratitude. So what's your latitude? Let's adjust your attitude. Head with a alligator, double dually Lamborghini. All up in a silly little yellow polka dot bikini.
I got molar moves, I got that molar too. You think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that.
Head with a alligator, double dually Lamborghini. All up in a silly little yellow polka dot bikini.
Check these molar moves. You need a molar too. I can do no wrong. Back of the head long, never cut it.
Head with a alligator, double dually Lamborghini. All up in a silly little yellow polka dot bikini. You're like the butt of a butternut cutting up panini. So climb back in your kangaroo pouch like a rolling genie. These moves are hot, these locks I got. This power cannot be disputed and it can't be bought. So you can find me in the studio with all these thoughts. You wanna buy my style, but you can't be what you're not, neighbor.
I got molar moves, I got that molar too. You think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these molar moves. You need a molar too. cut it. Got that motherfucking ballin'. You wanna touch it?
Yeah. Next time you come around here with your bitch ass, just remember how my mullet makes your hose pussy drip, drip, drip.
I got mullet moves, I got that mullet too. You think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these mullet moves. You need a mullet too. I can do no wrong. Never gonna cut it. I got mullet moves, I got that mullet too. Think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these mullet moves. You need a mullet too. I can do no wrong. Never gonna cut it. Never gonna cut it. Never gonna cut it.
Drip, drip,
Mullet moves. Don't touch the mullet, bitch. Mullet moves.
drip, drip.
Mullet moves. Never gonna cut it.
Welcome back. How you doing? Man, this lag is bad. But let's go ahead and get back to this book, shall we? Good Lord. Chapter 13. Lord Prefect bounded up to the bridge of the Heart of Gold. Trillian, Arthur, he shouted. It's working, the ship's reactivated. Trillian and Arthur were asleep on the floor. Come on, you guys, we're going. We're off, he said, kicking them awake. Hi there, guys, twittered the computer. It's really great to be with you again. I can tell you. And I just want to say that. Shut up, said Ford. Tell us where the hell we are. Frogstar World B. And? Man, it's a dump, said Zaphod, running onto the bridge. Hi guys, you must be so amazingly glad to see me. You can't even find words to tell me what a cool fruit I am. This guy is so full of himself. What a what? Said Arthur, blearily, picking himself up from the floor and not taking any of this in. I know how you feel, said Zaphod. I'm so great even I get tongue-tied talking to myself. Hey, it's good to see you, Trillian, Ford, Monkey Man. Hey, computer. Hi there, Mr. Beaverbrook, sir. Sure is a great honor to... Shut up and get us out of here. Fast, fast, fast. Sure thing, fella. Where do you want to go? Anywhere doesn't matter, shouted Zaphod. Yes, it does, he said again. We want to go to the nearest place to eat. Sure thing, said the computer happily, and a massive explosion rocked the bridge. When Zarniwip entered a minute or so later with a black eye, he regarded the four wisps of smoke with interest. Chapter 14. My phone's in the way. Four inert bodies sank through spinning blackness. Consciousness had died. Cold oblivion pulled the bodies down and down into the pit of unbeing. The roar of silence echoed dismally around them, and they all sank at last into a dark and bitter sea of heaving red that slowly engulfed them, seemingly forever. After what seemed an eternity, the sea receded, and left them lying on a cold, hard shore. Let me make sure my sound's on. Just gotta double, triple check this stuff. We don't want another happening like last night, do we? It appears I need to turn up my mic over here. How's that? Is that better? Let me know in the comments below. After what seemed an eternity, the sea receded and left them lying on a cold, hard shore. The flotsam and jetsam of the stream of life, the universe, and everything. Cold spasms shook them, lights danced sickeningly around them. The cold, hard shore tipped and spun, and then stood still. It shone darkly. It was a very highly polished, cold, hard shore. A green blur watched them disapprovingly. It coughed. "Good evening, madam, gentlemen," it said. "Do you have a reservation?" Ford Prefect's consciousness snapped back like elastic, making his brain smart. He looked up woozily at the green blur. "Reservation?" he said weakly. "Yes, sir," said the green blur. "Do you need a reservation for the afterlife?" Insofar as it is possible for a green blur to arc its eyebrows disdainfully. This is what the green blur now did. "Afterlife, sir," it said. Arthur Dent was grappling with his consciousness the way one grapples with a lost bar of soap in the bath. "Is this the afterlife?" he stammered. "Well, I assume so," said Ford Prefect, trying to work out which way was up. He tested the theory that it must lie in the opposite direction from the cold hard shore in which he was lying, and staggered to what he hoped were his feet. "I mean," he said, swaying gently, "there's no way we could have survived that blast, is there?" "No," muttered Arthur. He had raised himself onto his elbows, but it didn't seem to improve things. He slumped down again. "No," said Trillian, standing up. "No way at all." A dull, hoarse, gurgling sound came from the floor. It was Zaphod Beeblebrox attempting to speak. "I certainly didn't survive," he gurgled. "I was a total goner. Wham, bang, and that was it." "Yeah, thanks to you," said Ford. "We didn't stand a chance. We must have been blown to bits. Arms, legs, everywhere." "Yeah," said Zaphod, struggling noisily to his feet. "If the lady and gentleman would care to order drinks," said the green blur, hovering impatiently beside them. "Her pow splat," continued Zaphod, instantaneously zonked into one-component molecules. "Hey, Ford," he said, identifying one of the slowly solidifying blurs around him. "Did you get that thing of your whole life flashing before you?" "You got that too?" said Ford. "Your whole life?" "Yeah," said Zaphod. "At least I assume it was mine. I spent a lot of time out of my skulls, you know." He looked around him at the various shapes that were at last becoming proper shapes instead of vague and wobbling, shapeless shapes. "So," he said. "So what?" said Ford. "So here we are," said Zaphod hesitantly. "Lying dead." "Standing," Trillian corrected him. Standing dead?" continued Zaphod. "In this desolate restaurant," said Arthur Dent, who had got to his feet and could now, much to his surprise, see clearly. That is to say, the thing that surprised him was not that he could see, but what he could see. "Here we are," continued Zaphod doggedly, "standing dead in this desolate—" "5 stars," said Trillian. "Restaurant," concluded Zaphod. "Odd, isn't it?" said Ford. Yeah. "Nice chandeliers, though," said Trillian. "They look about themselves in bemusement." "It's not so much an afterlife," said Arthur. "More a sort of a privé." The chandeliers were in fact a little on the flashy side, and the low vaulting ceiling from which they hung were not, in an ideal universe, have been painted in the particular shape of deep turquoise. And even if it had been, it wouldn't have been highlighted by concealed moonlighting. This is not, however, in an ideal universe, as was further evidenced by the eye-crossing patterns of the inlaid marble floor, and the way in which the fronting of the 80-yard-long marble-top bar had made, or been made. The fronting for the 8-yard-long marble-top bar had been made by stitching together nearly 20,000 Arcturian mosaic lizard skins, despite the fact that the 20,000 lizards concerned had needed them to keep their insides in. A few smartly dressed creatures were lounging casually at the bar, relaxing in a richly colored body-hugging seats that were deployed here and there about the bar area. A young V-Herg officer and his green-steaming young lady passed through the large smoking glass doors at the far end of the bar into the dazzling light of the main body of the restaurant beyond. Behind Arthur was a large, curtained bay window. He pulled aside the corner of the curtain and looked out at a bleak and dreary landscape, gray, pockmarked, and dismal. A landscape which under normal circumstances would have given Arthur the creeping horrors. These were not, however, normal circumstances, for the thing that froze his blood and made his skin try to crawl up his back and off the top of his head was sky. The sky was... An attendant flunky politely drew the curtain back into place. "All in good time, sir," he said. Zaphod's eyes flashed. "Hey, wait a minute, you dead guys," he said. "I think we're missing some ultra-important thing here, you know. Something somebody said and we missed it. Arthur was profoundly relieved to turn his attention from what he had just seen. He said, I said it was a sort of après. Yeah, and I don't you wish you hadn't? Said Zaphod. Ford. I said it was odd. Yeah, shrewd, but dull. Perhaps, intruded the green blur, who had by this time resolved into the shape of a small, wizened, dark-suited green waiter. Perhaps you would care to discuss the matter over drinks? Drinks? Cried Zaphod. That was it? See? See what you miss if you don't stay alert? Indeed, sir, said the waiter patiently. If the lady and gentleman would care to take drinks before dinner. Dinner! Zaphod exclaimed with passion. Listen, you little green person, my stomach could take you home and cuddle you all night in the mere idea. And the universe, continued the waiter, determined not to be deflected on his home stretch, will explode later for your pleasure. Ford's head swiveled slowly toward him. He spoke with feeling. Wow, he said. What sort of drinks do you serve in this place? The waiter laughed politely. A little polite little waiter's laugh. Ah, he said. I think, sir, has perhaps misunderstood me. Oh, I hope not, breathed Ford. The waiter coughed, a polite little waiter's cough. It is not unusual for our customers to be a little disoriented by the time journey, he said. So, if I might suggest... Time journey, said Zaphod. Time journey, said Ford. Time journey, said Trillian. You mean this isn't the afterlife, said Arthur. The waiter smiled a polite little waiter's smile. He had almost exhausted his polite little waiter repertoire, and would soon be slipping into his role of a rather tight-lipped and sarcastic little waiter. Afterlife, sir, he said. No, sir. And we're not dead, said Arthur. The waiter tightened his lips. Ha ha, he said. Sir is most evidently alive, otherwise I would not attempt to serve, sir. An extraordinary gesture, which is pointless attempting to describe, Zaphod Beeblebrox slapped both his foreheads with two of his arms and one of his thighs with the other. Hey guys, he said, this is crazy. We did it. We finally got it where we were going. This is Milloway's. Milloway's, said Ford. Yes, sir, said the waiter, laying on the patient with a towel. This is Milloway's, the restaurant at the end of the universe. End of what? Said Arthur. The universe, repeated the waiter, very clearly and unnecessarily distinctly. When did that end? Said Arthur. In just a few minutes, sir, said the waiter. He took a deep breath. He didn't need to do this since his body was supplied with a peculiar assortment of gases it required for survival, from a small intravenous device strapped to his leg. There are times, however, when whatever your metabolism, you have to take a deep breath. Now, if you would care to order your drinks at last, he said, I will then show you to your table. Zaphod grinned, 2 manic grins, sauntered over to the bar, and bought most of it. Chapter 15. The restaurant at the end of the universe is one of the most extraordinary ventures in the entire history of catering. It has been built on the fragmented remains of... It will be built on the fragmented. That is to say, it will have been built by this time and indeed has been. One of the major problems encountered in time travel is not that of accidentally becoming your own father or mother. There's no problem involved in becoming your own father or mother that a broad-minded and well-adjusted family can't cope with. There's no problem about changing the course of history. The course of history does not change because it all fits together like a jigsaw. All the important changes have happened before the things they were supposed to change, and it all sorts itself out in the end. The major problem is quite simply one of grammar, and the main work to consult in this matter is Dr. Den Streetmentioner's Time Traveler's Handbook of 1001 Tense Formations. It will tell you, for instance, how to describe something that was about to happen to you in the past before you avoided it by time-jumping forward 2 days in order to avoid it. The event will be described differently according to whether you are talking about it from the standpoint of your own natural time, from a time in the further future, or a time in the further past, and is further complicated by the possibility of conducting conversations, while you are actually traveling from one time to another with the intention of becoming your own mother or father. Or your own grandpa, perhaps? I do not know. Most readers get as far as the future semi-conditionally modified, sub-inverted, plagal past, subjunctive intentional, before giving up. And in fact, in later editions of the book, all the pages beyond this point have been left blank to save on printing costs. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy skips lightly over this tangle of academic abstraction, pausing only to note the term future perfect has been abandoned since it was discovered not to be. To resume, the Restaurant at the End of the Universe is one of the most extraordinary ventures in the entire history of catering. It is built on the fragmented remains of an eventually ruined planet which is, while heaven be, enclosed in a vast time bubble and projected forward in time to the precise moment of the end of the universe. This is, many would say, impossible. In it, guests take, willin' on take, their places at a table and eat, willin' on eat, sumptuous meals while watching, willing watchin', the whole of creation explode around them. This, many would say, is equally impossible. You can arrive, mine Iridian, on win, for any sitting you like without prior, late for win, reservation because you can book retrospectively. As it were, when you return to your own time, you can have on book, havinta for win, presuming returning winter, retro home. This is many would insist absolutely impossible. At the Restaurant, you can meet and dine with man meetin' con with dinan on win, a fascinating cross-section of the entire population of space and time. This, it can be explained patiently, is also impossible. You can visit it. I really wish I could get rid of that whole messenger thing. What a Blythe. I might have to stop and cause that thing not to ring again. Good lord. Let me go over here really quick and mute this for the Eve. Shall we? I don't want to leave the chat, I just want to make it quiet for the moment. Mute. Let's mute. This many hours. Alright. Hopefully that won't bug us again. Alright. This, even if the rest is true, which it isn't, is patiently impossible, say the doubters. All you have to do is deposit 1 penny in a savings account in your own era. And when you arrive at the end of time, the operation of compound interest means that the fabulous cost of your meal has been paid for. This, many claim, is merely impossible but clearly insane, which is why the advertising executives of the star system of Bastable came up with this slogan: if you've done 6 impossible things this morning, why not round it off with breakfast at Milloway's, the restaurant at the end of the universe? Chapter 16. At the bar, Zaphod was rapidly becoming as attired as a newt. His heads knocked together and his smiles were coming out of sync. He was miserably happy. Zaphod, said Ford, while you're still capable of speech, would you care to tell me what the photon happened? Where have you been? Where have we been? Small matter, but I'd really like it cleared up. Zaphod's left head sobered up, leaving his right to sink further into obscurity of drink. Yeah, he said. I've been around. They want me to find the man who rules the universe, but I don't care to meet him. I believe the man can't cook. His left head watched as his right head sang this, and then nodded. True, it said. Have another drink. Ford had another Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster, the drink which has been described as the alcoholic equivalent of a mugging. Expensive and bad for the head. Whatever had happened, Ford decided he didn't really care too much. Listen, Ford, said Zaphod, everything's cool and fruity. You mean everything's under control? No, said Zaphod, I do not mean everything's under control. That would be not cool and fruity. If you want to know what happened, let's just say I had the whole situation in my pocket, okay? Ford shrugged. Zaphod giggled into his drink. It frothed up over the side of the glass and started to eat its way into the marble bar top. Holy shnikes. Excuse me. The wild-skinned sky gypsy approached them and played an electric violin at them until Zaphod gave him a lot of money and he agreed to go away again. The gypsy approached Arthur and Trillian sitting in another part of the bar. I don't know what this place is, said Arthur, but I think it gives me the creeps. Have another drink, said Trillian. Enjoy yourself. Which, said Arthur, the two are mutually exclusive. Poor Arthur, you're not really cut out for this life, are you? You call this life? You're beginning to sound like Marvin. Marvin's the clearest thinker I know. How do you think we make this violinist go away? The waiter approached. Your table is ready, he said. Seen from the outside, which it never is, the restaurant resembles a giant glittering starfish beached on the forgotten rock. Each of its arms house the bars, the kitchens, the force-filled generators, which protect the entire structure, and the decayed hunk of planet on which it sits, and the time turbines which slowly rock the whole affair backward and forward across the crucial moment. In the center sits a gigantic golden dome, almost a complete globe, and it was into this area that Zaphod, Ford, Arthur, and Trillian now passed. At least 5 tons of glitter alone had gone into them before them and covered every available surface. The other surfaces were not available because they were already encrusted with jewels, precious seashells from Santraginus, gold leaf mosaic tiles, lizard skins, and a million unidentifiable embellishments and decorations. Glass glittered, silver shone, gold gleamed, Arthur Dent goggled. Wowee, said Zaphod. Zappo! Incredible, breathed Arthur. The people. The things. The things, said Ford, perfectly quiet, are also people. The people, resumed Arthur. The other people. The lights, said Trillian. The tables, said Arthur. The clothes, said Trillian. The waiter thought they sounded like a couple of bailiffs. The end of the universe is very popular, said Zaphod, threading his way unsteadily through the throng of tables, some made of marble, some of rich, ultra mahogany, some even of platinum, and at each of the party of exotic creatures chatting among themselves and studying menus. People like to dress up for it, continued Zaphod. Gives it a sense of occasion. The tables were fanned out in a large circle around the central stage area, where a small band were playing light music. At least 1,000 tables was Arthur's guess, and interspersed among them were swaying palms, hissing fountains, grotesque statuary, in short, all the paraphernalia common to all the restaurants where little expense has been spared to give the impression that no expense has been spared. Arthur glanced round, half expecting to see someone making an American Express commercial. Zaphod lurched into Ford, who lurched back into Zaphod. Wowee, said Zaphod. Zappo, said Ford. My great-granddaddy must have really screwed up the computer's works, you know, said Zaphod. I told it to take us to the nearest place to eat, and it sends us to the end of the universe. Remind me to be nice to it one day. He paused. Hey, everybody's here, you know. Everybody was anybody. Was, said Arthur. At the end of the universe, you have to use the past tense a lot, said Zaphod. 'Cause everything's been done, you know. Hi, guys, he called out to a nearby party of giant iguana lifeforms. How did you do? Was that Zaphod Beeblebrox? Asked one iguana of another iguana. I think so, replied the second iguana. Well, doesn't that just take the biscuit, said the first iguana. Funny old thing, life, said the second iguana. That's what you make it, said the first, and they lapsed back into silence. They were waiting for the greatest show in the universe. Hey, Zaphod, said Ford, grabbing for his arm, and on account of the third pan-galactic arc blaster missing, he pointed a swaying finger. Sorry, guys. My nose is itchy. mate of mine, he said. Hot black daciato. See, the man in the platinum table with the platinum suit on? Safwat tried to follow Ford's finger with his eyes, but it made him feel dizzy. Finally, he saw. Oh yeah, he said. Then recognition came. A moment later, hi, he said. Did that guy ever make it mega big? Wow, bigger than the biggest thing ever other than me? Who's he supposed to be? Asked Trillian. Hot black daciato, said Safwat in astonishment. You don't know? You never heard of Disaster Area? No, said Trillian, who hadn't. The biggest, said Ford. Loudest. Richest, suggested Safwat. Rock band in the history of, he searched for the word, history of itself, said Safwat. No, said Trillian. Zowie, said Safwat. Here we are at the end of the universe and you haven't even lived yet. You miss out. He led her off to where the waiter had been waiting. All this time at the table, Arthur followed them, feeling very lost and alone. Ford waited off through the throng of people to renew an old acquaintance. Hey, you're Hot Black, he called out. How you doing? Great to see you, big boy. How's the noise? You're looking great. Really, very, very fat, unwell. Amazing. He slapped the man on the back and was mildly surprised that it seemed to elicit no response. The pan-galactic gargle blasters swirling around inside him told him to plunge on regardless. Remember the old days, he said. Wasting outright. The bistro illegal, remember? Slim's Throat Emporium. The Evil Drum Boozerama. Great days, eh? Hot Black Daciato offered no opinion as to whether they were great days or not. Ford was not perturbed. And when we were hungry, we'd pose as public health inspectors, remember that? And go around confiscating meals and drinks, right? Till we got food poisoning. Oh, and then there were the long nights of talking and drinking in the smelly rooms above the Café Lou in Gretchentown, New Battle. And you were always the next room trying to write songs on your adjutar. And we all hated them. And you said you didn't care. And we said we did because we hated them so much. Ford's eyes were beginning to mist over. And you said you didn't want to be a star, he continued, wallowing in nostalgia, because you despised the star system. And we said, Hadra and Saliju and me, that we didn't think you had the option. And what do you do now? You buy star systems. He turned and solicited the attention of those at nearby tables. Here, he said, is a man who buys star systems. Hot Black Daciato made no attempt either to confirm or deny this fact, and the attention of the temporary audience waned. I think someone's drunk, muttered a purple bush-like being into his wineglass. Ford staggered slightly and sat down heavily on a chair facing Hot Black Daciato. What's that number you do? He said, unwisely grabbing at a bottle for support and tipping it over into a nearby glass as it happened. Not to waste a happy accident, he drained the glass. That really huge number, he continued. How does it go? Warm, better, something, and in the stack you do it, ends up with the ship crashing right into the sun and you actually do it? Ford crashed his fist into his other hand to illustrate this feat graphically. He knocked the bottle over again. Ship, sun, wham bang, he cried. I mean, forget lasers and stuff. You guys are into solar flares and real sunburn. Oh, and terrible songs. His eyes followed the stream of liquid glugging out of the bottle onto the table. Something ought to be done about it, he thought. Hey, you want a drink? He said. It began to sink into his squelching mind that something was missing from this reunion, and that the missing something was in some way connected with the fact that the fat man sitting opposite him in the platinum suit and the silvery hat had not said, Hi, Ford, or Great to see you after all this time, or in fact anything at all. More to the point, he had not yet even moved. Hot Black? Said Ford. A large, meaty hand landed on his shoulder from behind and pushed him aside. He slid gracelessly off his seat and peered upward to see if he could spot the owner of this discourteous hand. The owner was not hard to spot on account of his being something of the order of 7 feet tall and not slightly built with it. In fact, he was built the way other builds leather sofas. Shiny, lumpy, and with lots of solid stuffing. The suit into which the man's body had been stuffed looked as if its only purpose in life was to demonstrate how difficult it was to get this sort of body into a suit. The face had the texture of an orange and the color of an apple, but there the resemblance to anything sweet ended. "Kid," said a voice which emerged from the man's mouth, as if it had been having a really rough time down in his chest. Yeah?" said Ford conversationally. He staggered back to his feet again and was disappointed that the top of his head didn't come further up the man's body. "Beat it," said the man. "Oh yeah?" said Ford, wondering how wise he was being. "And who are you?" The man considered this for a moment. He wasn't used to being asked this sort of question. Nevertheless, after a while, he came up with an answer. "I'm the guy who's telling you to beat it," he said, "before you get it beaten for you." "Now listen," said Ford nervously. He wished his head would stop spinning, settle down, and get to grips with the situation. "Now listen," he continued. "I am one of Hotback's oldest friends, and," he glanced at Hotback, "Desiato, who still hadn't moved so much as an eyelash. "And," said Ford again, wondering what would be a good word to say after "and." The large man came up with a whole sentence to go after "and." He said it. "And I am Mr. Desiato's bodyguard," it went, "and I am responsible for his body, and I am not responsible for yours. So take it away before it gets damaged." "Now wait a minute," said Ford. "No minutes," boomed the bodyguard. "No waiting. Mr. Desiato speaks to no one." "Well, perhaps you'd let him say what he thinks about the matter himself," said Ford. "He speaks to no one," bellowed the bodyguard. Ford glanced anxiously at Hotback again and was forced to admit to himself that the bodyguard seemed to have the facts on his side. There was still not the slightest sign of movement, let alone keen interest in Ford's welfare. "Why?" said Ford. "What's the matter with them?" The bodyguard told him. Chapter 17. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy notes that Disaster Area, a plutonium rock band from Gagrakakak, mine zones are generally held to be not only the loudest rock band in the galaxy, but in fact the loudest noise of any kind at all. Regular concert goers judge the best sound balance as usually to be heard from within large concrete bunkers some 37 miles from the stage, while the musicians themselves play their instruments by remote control from within a heavily insulated spaceship which stays in orbit around the planet, or more frequently around a completely different planet. Their songs are on the whole very simple and mostly follow the similar theme of boy being meets girl being beneath a silvery moon, which then explodes for no adequately explored reason. Many worlds have now banned their act altogether, sometimes for artistic reasons, but most commonly because the band's public address system contravenes logical strategic arms limitations treaties. This has not, however, stopped their earnings from pushing back the boundaries of pure hypermathematics, and their chief research accountant has recently been appointed professor of neomathematics at the Universe of Maximegalon, in recognition of both his general and his special theories of disaster area tax returns, in which he proves that the whole fabric of the space-time continuum is not merely curved, it is in fact totally bent. Ford staggered back to the table where Zaphod, Arthur, and Trillian were sitting waiting for the fun to begin. "Gotta have some food," said Ford. "Hi, Ford," said Zaphod. "You speak to the big noise boy." Ford waggled his head, non-committally. "Hot Black, I sort of spoke to him, yeah." "What'd he say?" "Well, not a lot, really. Yeah? He's spending a year dead for tax reasons. I've got to sit down." He sat down. The waiter approached. "Would you like to see the menu?" he said, "or would you like to meet the dish of the day?" "Huh?" said Ford. "Huh?" said Arthur. "Huh?" said Trillian. "That's cool," said Zaphod. "We'll meet the meat." In a small room in one of the arms of the restaurant complex, a tall, thin, gangling figure pulled aside a curtain, and Oblivion looked him in the face. It was not a pretty face, perhaps because Oblivion had looked him in it so many times. It was too long for a start, the eyes too sunken and hooded, the cheeks too hollow. His lips were too thin and too long, and when they parted, his teeth looked too much like a recently polished bay window. The hands that held the curtain were long and thin too. They were also cold. They lay lightly along the folds of the curtain, and gave the impression that if he didn't watch them like a hawk, they would crawl away of their own accord and do something unspeakable in the corner. He let the curtain drop, and the terrible light that had played on his features went off to play somewhere more healthy. He prowled around his small chamber like a mantis, contemplating an evening's praying, finally sitting on a rickety chair by the trestle table, where he leafed through a few sheets of jokes. Bell rang. He pushed the thin sheaf of papers aside and stood up. His hands brushed limply over some of the 1,000,000 rainbow-colored sequins with which his jacket was festooned, and he was gone through the door. In the restaurant, the lights dimmed. The band quickened its pace. A single spotlight stabbed down into the darkness of the stairway that led up to the center of the stage. Up the stairs bounded a tall, brilliantly colored figure. He burst onto the stage, tripped lightly up to the microphone, removed it from its stand with one sweep of his long, thin hand, and stood for a moment bowing left and right to the audience, acknowledging their applause and displaying to them his bay window. He waved to his particular friends in the audience, even though there weren't any there, and waited for the applause to die down. He held up his hand and smiled a smile that stretched not merely from ear to ear, but seemed to extend some way beyond the mere confines of his face. "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen," he cried. "Thank you very much. Thank you so much." He eyed them with twinkling eye. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "the universe as we know it has now been in existence for over 170,000 million billion years and will be ending in a little over half an hour. So, welcome, one and all, to Milliways, the restaurant at the end of the universe." With a gesture, he deftly conjured another round of spontaneous applause. With another gesture, he cut it. "I am your host for tonight," he said. "My name is Max Quadliplin." Everyone knew this. His act was famous throughout the known galaxy, but he said it for the fresh applause it generated, which he acknowledged with a disclaiming smile and wave. "And I've just come straight from the very, very other end of time, where I've been hosting a show at the Big Bang Burger Bar, where I can tell you we had a very exciting evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I will be with you right through this historic occasion, the end of history itself." Another burst of applause died away quickly as the lights dimmed down further. On every table, candles ignited themselves spontaneously, eliciting a slight gasp from all the diners, and wreathing them in 1,000 tiny flickering lights and 1,000,000 intimate shadows. A tremor of excitement thrilled through the darkened restaurant as the vast golden dome above them began very, very slowly to dim, to darken, to fade. Max's voice was hushed as he continued. "So, ladies and gentlemen," he breathed, "the candles are lit, the band plays softly, and as the forest-shielded dome above us fades into transparency, revealing a dark and sullen sky hung heavy with the ancient light of livid swallowed stars, I can see we're all in for a fabulous evening's apocalypse." Even the soft tootling of the band faded away as stunned shock descended on all those who had not seen this sight before. A monstrous grisly light poured in on them, a hideous light, a boiling, pestilential light, a light that would have disfigured hell. The universe was coming to an end. For a few interminable seconds, the restaurant spun silently through the raging void. Then Max spoke again. "For those of you who ever hoped to see the light at the end of the tunnel," he said, "this is it." The band struck up again. "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen," cried Max. "I'll be back with you again in just a moment, and meanwhile, I leave you in the very capable hands of Mr. Ragnolfi and his cataclysmic combo. Big hand, please, ladies and gentlemen, for Reg and the boys." The baleful turmoil of the skies continued. Hesitantly, the audience began to clap, and after a moment or so, normal conversation resumed. Max began his round of tables, swapping jokes, shouting with laughter, earning his living. A large dairy animal approached Zaphod Beeblebrox's table. A large, fat, meaty quadruped of the bovine type with large watery eyes, small horns, and what almost might have been an ingratiating smile on its lips. "Good evening," it lowed and sat back heavily on its haunches. "I am the main dish of the day. May I interest you in parts of my body?" It harumphed and gurgled a bit, wriggled its hindquarters into a more comfortable position, and gazed peacefully at them. Its gaze was met by looks of startled bewilderment from Arthur and Trillian, a resigned shrug from Ford, Prefect, and a naked hunger from Zaphod Beeblebrox. "Something off the shoulders, perhaps?" suggested the animal. "Braised in a white wine sauce?" Your shoulder?" said Arthur in a horrified whisper. "But naturally my shoulder, sir," mooed the animal contentedly. "Nobody else is mine to offer." Zaphod leapt to his feet and started prodding and filling the animal's shoulder appreciatively. "Or the rump is very good," murmured the animal. "I've been exercising it and eating plenty of grains, so there's a lot of good meat there." It gave a mellow grunt, gurgled again, and started to chew the cud. It swallowed the cud again. "Or a casserole of me, perhaps," it added. "You mean this animal actually wants us to eat it?" whispered Trillian to Ford. "Me?" said Ford, with a glazed look in his eyes. "I don't mean anything." "That's absolutely horrible," explained Arthur. "The most revolting thing I've ever heard." "What's the problem, Earthman?" said Zaphod, now transferring his attention to the animal's enormous rump. "I just don't want to eat an animal that's standing there inviting me to," said Arthur. "It's heartless." "Better than eating an animal that doesn't want to be eaten," said Zaphod. "That's not the point," Arthur protested. Then he thought about it for a moment. "All right," he said. "Maybe it is the point. I don't care. I'm not going to think about it now. I'll just, The universe raged about him in its death throes. "I think I'll just have a green salad," he muttered. "May I urge you to consider my liver?" asked the animal. "It must be very rich and tender by now. I've been force-feeding myself for months." "A green salad," said Arthur emphatically. "A green salad," said the animal, rolling his eyes disapprovingly. "Are you going to tell me," said Arthur, "that I shouldn't have green salad?" "Well," said the animal, "I know many vegetables are very clear on that point, which is why it was eventually decided to cut through the whole tangled problem and breed an animal that actually wanted to be eaten and was capable of saying so clearly and distinctively. And here I am." It managed a very slight bow. "Glass of water, please," said Arthur. "Look," said Zaphod, "we want to eat. We don't want to make a meal of the issues. 4 rare steaks, please, and hurry. We haven't eaten in 566,000 million years." The animal staggered to its feet. It gave a mellow gurgle. "A very wise choice, sir, if I may say so. Very good," it said. "I'll just nip off and shoot myself." He turned and gave a friendly wink to Arthur. "Don't worry, sir," he said. "I'll be very humane." It waddled unhurriedly off to the kitchen. A matter of minutes later, the waiter arrived with 4 huge steaming steaks. Zaphod and Ford wolfed straight into them without a second's hesitation. Trillian paused, then shrugged and started into hers. Arthur stared at his, feeling slightly ill. "Hey, Earthman," said Zaphod, with a malicious grin on his face that wasn't stuffing itself. "What's eating you?" And the band played on. All around the restaurant, people and things relaxed and chatted. The air was filled with talk of this and that, and with a mingled sense of exotic plants, extravagant foods, and insidious wines. For an infinite number of miles, in every direction, the universal cataclysm was gathered to a stupefying climax. Glancing at his watch, Max returned to the stage with a flourish. "And now, ladies and gentlemen," he beamed, "is everyone having one last wonderful time?" "Yes," Yes, called out the sort of people who call out yes when comedians ask them if they're having a wonderful time. That's wonderful, enthused Max. Absolutely wonderful, and as the photon storms gather in swirling crowds around us, preparing to tear apart the last of the red-hot suns, I know you're all going to settle back and enjoy with me what I know we will all find an immensely exciting and terminal experience. He paused. He caught the audience with a glittering eye. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, he said, there's nothing penultimate about this one. He paused again. Tonight, his timing was immaculate. Time after time, he had done this show night after night. Not that the word night had any meaning here at the extremity of time. All there was the endless repetition of the final moment, as the restaurant rocked slowly forward over the brink of time's furthest edge and back again. This night was good, though. The audience was writhing in the palm of his sickly hand. His voice dropped. They had to strain to hear him. This, he said, really is the absolute end, the final chilling desolation in which the whole majestic sweep of creation becomes extinct. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the proverbial it. He dropped his voice to lower, and the stillness of a fly would not have dared clear its throat. After this, he said, there is nothing, void, emptiness, oblivion, absolutely nothing. His eyes glitter again, or did they twinkle? Nothing except, of course, for the desserts and the fine selection of Aldebaran liquors. The band gave him a music sting. He wished they wouldn't. He didn't need it. Not an artist of his caliber. He could play the audience like his own musical instrument. They were laughing with relief. He followed on. And for once, he cried cheerily, you don't need to worry about having a hangover in the morning because there won't be any more mornings. He beamed at his happy, laughing audience. He glanced up at the sky, going through the same death routine every night, but his glance was only for a fraction of a second. He trusted it to do its job, as one professional trusts another. And now, he said, strutting about the stage, at the risk of putting a damper on the wonderful sense of doom and futility here this evening, I would like to welcome a few parties. He pulled a card from his pocket. Do we have, he put up a hand to hold back the cheers, do we have a party here from the Zanselquisor Flammarion Bridge Club from beyond the void of Kvarn? Are they here? The rousing cheer came from the back, but he pretended not to hear. He peered around trying to find them. Are they here? He asked again to elicit a louder cheer. He got it, as he always did. Ah, there they are. Well, last bids, lads, and no cheating. Remember, this is a very solemn moment. He lapped up the laughter. And do we have a party of minor deities from the halls of Asgard? Away to his right came a rumble of thunder. Lightning arced across the stage. A small group of hairy men with helmets sat looking very pleased with themselves and raised their glasses to him. Husbands, he thought to himself. Careful with that hammer, sir, he said. They did their trick with the lightning again. Max gave them a very thin-lipped smile. And thirdly, he said, a party of young conservatives from Series B, are they here? A party of smartly dressed young dogs stopped throwing rolls at each other and started throwing rolls at the stage. They yapped and barked unintelligibly. Yes, said Max. Well, this is all your fault. You realize that. And finally, said Max, quieting the audience down and putting on his solemn face, finally, I believe. We have with us here tonight a party of believers, very devout believers, from the Church of the Second Coming of the Great Prophet Darkwan. There were about 20 of them, sitting right out on the edge of the floor, ascetically dressed, sipping mineral water nervously and staying apart from the festivities. They blinked resentfully as the spotlight was turned on them. There they are, said Max, sitting there patiently. He said he'd come again, and he's kept you waiting a long time, so let's hope he's hurrying, fellas, because he's only got 8 minutes left. The party of Zarquin's followers sat rigid, refusing to be buffeted by the waves of uncharitable laughter which swept over them. Max restrained his audience. No, but seriously though, folks, seriously though, no offense meant. No, I know we shouldn't make fun of deeply held beliefs, so I think a big hand, please, for the great prophet Zarquan. The audience clapped respectfully, wherever he's gone to. He blew a kiss to the stony-faced party and returned to the center of the stage. He grabbed a tall stool and sat on it. It's marvelous, though, he rattled on, to see so many of you here tonight. No, isn't it, though? Yes, absolutely marvelous. Because I know that so many of you come here time and time again, which I think is really wonderful. Come and watch this final end of everything, and then return home to your own eras and raise families. Strive for new and better societies. Fight terrible wars for what you know to be right. It really gives one hope for the future of all life kind, except, of course, he waved at the blitzing turmoil above and around them, that we know it hasn't got one. Arthur turned to Ford. He hadn't quite got this place worked out in his mind. Look, Shirley, he said, if the universe is about to end, don't we go with it? Ford gave him a 3-pan galactic gargle blaster look, in other words, a rather unsteady one. No, he said, look, he said, as soon as you come into this dive, you get held in this sort of amazing force shielded temporal warp thing, I think. Oh, said Arthur. He turned his attention back to a bowl of soup he'd managed to get from the waiter to replace his steak. Look, said Ford, I'll show you. He grabbed at a napkin off the table and fumbled hopelessly with it. Look, he said again, imagine this napkin, right, as the temporal universe, right, and the spoon as a transductional mode in the matter curve. It took him a while to say this last part, and Arthur hated to interrupt him. That's the spoon I was eating with, he said. All right, said Ford, imagine this spoon. He found a small wooden spoon on a tray of relishes. This spoon, but found it rather tricky to pick up. No, better still, this fork. Hey, would you let go of my fork? Snapped Safwad. All right, said Ford, all right. Why don't we say that this wine glass is the temporal universe? What? The one you've just knocked on the floor? Did I do that? Yes. All right, said Ford, forget that. I mean, look, do you know how the universe actually began for a kickoff? Probably not, said Arthur, who wished he'd never embarked on any of this. All right, said Ford, imagine this, right? You get this bath, right? A large round bath, and it's made of ebony. Where from, said Arthur. Herod's was destroyed by the Vogons. Doesn't matter. So you keep saying. Listen. All right. You got this bath, see? Imagine you've got this bath and it's ebony and it's conical. Conical, said Arthur? What sort of... said Ford. It's conical. So what you do is, you see, you fill it with the fine white sand, all right? Or sugar. Fine white sand or sugar. Anything. Doesn't matter. Sugar's fine. And when it's full, you pull the plug out. Are you listening? I'm listening. You pull the plug out, and it all just twirls away, you see? Out of the plug hole. I see. You don't see. You don't see at all. I haven't got the clever bit yet. You want to hear the clever bit? Tell me the clever bit. I'll tell you the clever bit. Ford thought for a moment, trying to remember what the clever bit was. The clever bit, he said, is this. You film it happening. Clever, agreed Arthur. You get a movie camera, then you film it happening. Clever. That's not the clever bit. This is the clever bit. I remember now that this is the clever bit. The clever bit is that you then thread the film and the projector backward. Backward? Yes, threading it backward is definitely the clever bit. So then you just sit and watch it, and everything just appears to spiral upward out of the plug hole and fill the bath, see? And that's how the universe began, is it? Said Arthur. No, said Ford, but it is a marvelous way to relax. He reached for his wine glass. Where's my wine glass, he said. It's on the floor. Ah. Tipping back his chair to look for it, Ford collided with a green small waiter, who was approaching the table carrying a portable telephone. Ford excused himself to the waiter, explaining that it was because he was extremely drunk. The waiter said that was quite all right and that he perfectly understood. Ford thanked the waiter for his kind indulgence, attempted to tug his forelock, missed 6 inches, and slid under the table. Mr. Zaphod Beeblebrox? Inquired the waiter. Yeah? Said Zaphod, glancing up from his third steak. There's a phone call for you. Hey, what? A phone call, sir. For me, here? Hey, but who knows where I am? One of his minds raced, the other dawdled lovingly over the food it was still shoveling in. Excuse me if I carry on, won't you? Said his eating head and carried on. There were now so many people after him he'd lost count. He shouldn't have made such a conspicuous entrance. Hell, why not though, he thought. How do you know you're having fun if there's no one watching you have it? Maybe somebody here tipped off the Galactic Police, said Trillian. Everyone saw you come in. You mean they want to arrest me over the phone? Said Zaphod. Could be. I'm pretty dangerous dude when I'm cornered. Yeah, said the voice from under the table. You go to pieces so fast people get hit by the shrapnel. Hey, what is this, Judgment Day? Snapped Zaphod. Do we get to see that as well? Asked Arthur nervously. I'm in no hurry, muttered Zaphod. Okay, so who's the cat on the phone? He kicked forward. Hey, get up there, kid, he said to him. I may need you. I am not, said the waiter, personally acquainted with the metal gentleman in question, sir. Metal? Yes, sir. Did you say metal? Yes, sir, I said that. I am not personally acquainted with the metal gentleman in question. Okay, carry on. But I am informed that he has been awaiting your return for a considerable number of millennia. It seems you left him somewhat precipitately? Left here? Said Zaphod. Are you being strange? We only just arrived here. Indeed, sir, persisted the waiter doggedly. But before you arrived here, sir, I understand that you left here. Alright, we still have a ways to go. Like, this is a really long chapter. And, no. I guess we'll finish it and just pick a shorter video. Zaphod tried this in one breath, then in the other. You're saying, he said, that before we arrived here, we left here? This is going to be a long night, thought the waiter. Precisely, sir, he said. But you're analyst on danger money, baby, advised Zaphod. No, wait a minute, said Ford, emerged above table level again. Where exactly is here? To be absolutely exact, sir, it is Frogstar World B. But we just left there, protested Zaphod. We left there and came to the restaurant at the end of the universe. Yes, sir, said the waiter, feeling that he was now into some stretch and running well. The one was constructed on the ruins of the other. Oh, said Arthur brightly. You mean we've traveled in time but not in space? Listen, you semi-evolved simian, cut in Zaphod. Go climb a tree, will you? Arthur bristled. Go bang your heads together, Four Eyes, he advised Zaphod. No, no, the waiter said to Zaphod. Your monkey has got it right, sir. Arthur stuttered in fury and said nothing apposite, or indeed coherent. He jumped forward, I believe, 576,000 million years while staying in the exact same place, explained the waiter. He smiled. He had a wonderful feeling that he had finally won through against what had seemed to be insuperable odds. That's it, said Zaphod. I got it. I told the computer to send us to the nearest place to eat. That's exactly what it did. Give or take 576,000 million years or whatever. We never moved. Neat. They all agreed that this was very neat. But who, said Zaphod, is the cat on the phone? Whatever happened to Marvin, said Trillian. Zaphod clapped his hands to his head. Paranoid android had left him moping about on Frogstar World B. When was this? Well, 566,000 million years ago, I suppose, said Zaphod. Hey, hand me the wrap rod, plate captain. The little waiter's eyebrows wandered about his forehead in confusion. I beg your pardon, sir, he said. The phone, waiter, said Zaphod, grabbing it off him. Shee, you guys are so unhip, it's a wonder your bums don't fall off. Indeed, sir. Hey, Marvin, is that you? Said Zaphod into the phone. How you doing, kid? There was a long pause before a thin, low voice came up the line. I think you ought to know I'm feeling very depressed, it said. Zaphod cupped his hand over the phone. It's Marvin, he said. Hey, Marvin, he said into the phone again. We're having a great time. Food, wine, and a little personal abuse, and the universe going boom. Where can we find you? Again, the pause. You don't have to be or pretend to be interested in me, you know, said Marvin at last. I know perfectly well. I'm only a menial robot. Okay, said Zaphod, but where are you? Revert primary thrust, Marvin. That's what they say to me. Open airlock number 3, Marvin. Marvin, can you pick up the piece of paper? Can I pick up that piece of paper? Here I am, brain the size of a planet, and they asked me to. Yeah, sympathized Zaphod, hardly at all. But I'm quite used to being humiliated, droned Marvin. I can even go and stick my head in a bucket of water if you like. Would you like me to go and stick my head in a bucket of water? I've got one ready. Wait a minute. Hey Marvin, interrupted Zaphod, but it was too late. Sad little chunks and gurgles came up the line. What's he saying? Asked Trillian. Nothing, said Zaphod. He's just phoned to wash his head at us. There, said Marvin, coming back on the line and bubbling a bit. I hope that gave satisfaction. Yeah, said Zaphod. Now will you please tell us where you are? I'm in the parking lot, said Marvin. The parking lot? Said Zaphod. What are you doing there? Parking cars. What else does one do in a parking lot? Okay, hang in there. We'll be right down. In one movement, Zaphod leaped to his feet, threw down the phone, and wrote Hot Black Desiato on the bill. Come on, guys, he said. Marvin's in the parking lot. Let's go on down. What's he doing in the parking lot? Asked Arthur. Parking cars. What else, dum-dum? But what about the end of the universe? We'll miss the big moment. I've seen it. It's rubbish, said Zaphod. Nothing but a nab gib. A what? Opposite of the Big Bang. Come on, let's get zappy. Few of the other diners paid them any attention as they weaved through the restaurant to the exit. Their eyes were riveted on the horror of the skies. An interesting effect to watch for, Max was telling them, is in the upper left-hand quadrant of the sky, where if you look very carefully you can see the star system, Hastromil boiling away into the ultraviolet. Anyone here from Hastromil? There were one or two slightly hesitant cheers from somewhere at the back. Well, said Max, beaming cheerfully at them, it's too late to worry about whether you left the gas on now. Alright, so on that note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our second music break. On this break, we have Mr. Jeff Hilliard with his 80s sort of ballad called Abandoned. Then we have Miss Mia Savage from Arizona with her group Antidote for Savages with Lemurian Crypto, The Bottom Line, and Your Skeleton. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Left here alone, just a shadow of my erection on a wall. Why won't you answer my calls? I gave you
choice right now between fear and love.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. On this segment of the show, we are actually going to watch a video together. And we've watched this fella before. It is our friend James LaFleur from That Is Impossible channel. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen here really quick. Presenting That Is Impossible. Make sure all my sound is equipped, ready to go. Let's do this.
In just a few moments, Their eyes like turned really black, and then their face got kind of distorted.
Look, she keeps pointing at you.
Literalmente estoy.
Man.
Viendo una falla en la Matrix.
Шо, конечно, а то в такое раннее утро вставать.
Yo, what is that?
So I might have to plug in my router.
Pelo amor de Deus, eu acabei de olhar aqui, ó, no telescópio. Olha. Olha isso. Olha a luz. Olha isso.
Hi, I'm James the Flirt and you're watching the Impossible channel. Welcome aboard. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on for more videos like this. Today we're going to be taking a look at a series of mysterious videos of supposed shapeshifters that have been popping up all over the US and creeping a lot of people out. Is it the real deal, and is there any video evidence? We're also going to be taking a look at unexplained sightings, glitches in the Matrix, and paranormal activity caught on camera. Are you guys ready? Well, let's go.
Let's do this!
On May 2020, a mysterious event took place in the small city of Magé, Rio de Janeiro. It was about 7 o'clock at night when several people saw what looked like a luminous object descending from the sky. This thing was so different from the usual satellite or balloon sighting that the next day social media was flooded with videos of it.
Gente, pelo amor de Deus, eu acabei de olhar aqui, ó, no telescópio. Olha isso. Olha a luz, olha isso. Olha o OVNI, meu Deus do céu.
Mano, fique aquilo ali no céu, velho. Fala pra mim. Vocês estão vendo o que eu tô vendo? Ó.
That's like a mothership being
dá uma olhada.
But smaller.
Mano do céu, fala sério. Vem, bonita, vem.
Cadê? Denis, foca legal.
Vem pra mim, gatona.
Caraca, muito maneiro. Caraca.
Você tá gravando, né?
Isso é uma nave mesmo. Caramba.
At the time, eyewitnesses described bright, colorful lights moving in unusual patterns, sometimes even forming a triangular shape, and some even claimed to hear explosions and debris falling.
Chega aqui rápido. Rápido, vem cá. Vem cá. Olha tá caindo do céu. Caiu do céu do nada.
The next day, rumors began circulating that military
It's really quick, and then I'm going to change my internet over. I'm sorry, this is going to cause a disturbance for a moment, but it appears we're back. Okay. Hopefully we won't.
and choppers were being sent to where objects fell, leading to speculation.
Mesmo voador grande, tamanho de ônibus.
What? Come on now.
Ó, ele comendo todinho ali, ó, tá vendo? Aí. Alguma coisa na frente aí.
Despite the lack of
This reminds me of cruise to Mexico sister. I believe it was Cabo, not Cabo. No, it was Cabo San Lucas. And we're leaving on the cruise. There was this helicopter flying around the island where the and you see UFO flying around. The chopper was trying to chase it, and then all of a sudden it just blew out. I don't know if you witnessed anything, but yeah, that's what
Explanations. The Maget incident remains a mystery, and to this day, no one knows what really happened. But just recently, something was seen, but this time in São Paulo, Brazil.
Is that like angled up? Oh,
just weeks ago in São Paulo, Brazil, a group partying at a rooftop said they see like red luminous orbs flying in formation of what they were seeing us, and immediately began to record. A video put to TikTok, it amassed thousands of views and hundreds of internet. Some people believe just, but others Doto is a witness is just a lamp. But I'm guessing that this is not the case. If we zoom in on the video, we can clearly see the objects are hovering behind, so not a reflection. Others also stated that they saw something similar that same different location, which makes this a bit strange. There were also other people looking out on how a square-shaped object that seems to be a tad luminous orbs. Strange, isn't it? Like balloon. Kind of reminds me of the same luminous that we're seeing in Janeiro 2020. Unexplained phenomena in the sky up there. Sunny Arizona when 0813 noticed what at first looked like a bird murmur, saw what looked like hundreds if not thousands of flickering objects flying by. Completely he began to were not birds. So he immediately began to record this phenomenon. Check it out.
See you every day. A bunch of papers, like a bunch of reflective papers, like floating in the sky. I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna try to zoom in on it. Yeah, some kind of like bunch of trash floating by, but many of them, and they're like high up. Like, how did those pieces of go high up?
Well, looks like hundreds, if not metallic objects, can be seen flickering in the sky. Whatever these things are, they definitely do look like pieces of trash flying, and though they look like something else in the erratic community agree. While some believe that this could be chaff from military air flock of birds, agree that this has to be something worldly. I'm not exactly sure if these are birds, chaff, or crows. What I do hear is that this is not the first time something like this. A very phenomenon seen not long ago in Finland, edited by user Whitwar1. On April 2020, the internet user captured similar in Lisbon, Portugal, and a couple of months later, it happened once again in Arizona.
Oh, there.
It was also seen a couple of times in 2021 in other
Salga donde empezó los humos negros. ¿Qué está diciendo? Por favor.
What are these mysterious objects?
Dude.
And what shining doesn't matter matter if it's time. Could it be some sort of military chaff? Something in your
Damn.
thought play wrote a call a report. He describes an interesting story of who have been chained inside a cave all their lives. Now, because of confinement, they projected shadows on cave's reality. Little by little, this allegory has evolved into the modern concept of the theory, an idea that we might be a simulated world or oceans.
If so, I need to upgrade.
No, he was.
Now, little to no scientific proof of such a thing,
No way,
it still
it's
makes us one dimension that we can't see. And I guess this is internet user Colmix has been asking himself after he caught a bizarre glitch inside his home.
Конечно, только вставать.
Afternoon, upon arriving at his home, he notices that when he turns the room, it's as if day becomes night. Now, for a few more realizes that there's something and that this should not be happening at all.
That is so good.
Strange, isn't it? Even video posted by Maitland V.
Literalmente estoy viendo tengo dos lunas en el cielo.
Full afternoon with clear sky, decided to record. This is when she aims the camera at the moon and notices something strange.
Literalmente es una falla en la Matrix porque estoy viendo en el cielo. Me explica. Y no es el sol. Y son a las 5 de la tarde. O del otro lado. Ya se está.
Captures what looks like two moons, and this seems the camera. The sunset is very clear. This is something entirely. Now, what's even stranger? Not the first time. Happy. There are more videos from people all over the world. Something.
Oh my god. Bro, what in the hell?
Hey, y'all see this moon right here? Y'all see this moon right here? It's the moon right there. I'm gonna go and moon
Could it be that this is some sort of glitch in the simulation? Or it else? Playing things caught on and stop there. A few weeks ago, a serious event in the Volo Museum in Illinois. Now, the Volo Museum is known for collection and rare automobiles, as well as other unique exhibits. Nothing strange about that, right? Here's where things take a really turn. The museum holds a very rare collection of automobiles and items. The tragic incident occurred in 12 loss of nearly 100 lives. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, odd happened at the museum. A CCTV camera installed inside captured the chilling moment where we in from ground. We see how the museum's floor overtaken water.
So weird.
Now it seemed normal. We weren't that it wasn't raining. Checking everything out, they confirmed no broken pipes or leak. Explain his fit. Not only that, I had never seen this happen built in the 1960s. What the heck is here? Boosted a lot of most internet users the shatters seems to start moving by itself when the in.
Get there.
Other internet users also bottom of houses didn't move or as the water.
What?
Yeah, isn't that
Strange, isn't it? Could this be related to some phenomena, a glitch in the matrix, or something else entirely? But it doesn't stop. Following Lawrence's profile focused on making videos with his dog, doing so since his dog was very little, and most regular vlog type videos. As his dog grew, started noticing weird behavior he couldn't explain. And he arrived home, tried capturing this on camera with success. This is mostly because dog noticed that he was there. He would actually does. So on one sunny afternoon, Lawrence decided to arrive silently, and this is what happened.
Oh, look, it's sitting like a human. Gilly used to do that. She'd sit on the steps like a little.
Always does that.
And then it says the human's like, human? I don't know what you're talking about.
Like fun.
This is correct. Yeah. Looks like an outfit. Dog clothes. Hey, sir. I ain't doing nothing. Oh no, there's a human being. Creepy dog.
Did that. He actually captures his dog all alone at his house. Human would. The crazy part is when his dog notices that Lawrence immediately begins to act normal. What in the world is going on? They're being posted the past 98 million views, and most internet users agree there's something really off about this. One user stated, "The way he's staring at you like he's trying to determine how. Oh my god." Another internet user states, "He put his front paws down as soon as he heard you. He was sitting like a literal person." Teddy Moody says, "He was sitting like a human. Now either sit like that all the time. I don't know what that is." It seems that most internet users agree that there's something really strange about them, even be a skin way. This is one of the strange plain videos I've seen. But I want to know your thoughts. What do you think is going on here? Dog start acting normal after he noticed Lawrence.
Just like spin.
For the past few months, a bizarre event took place in the several people began strange encounters while shopping at their usual grocery stores. Some of these encounters are quite chilling, difficult to explain.
Really black, and then their face kind of got kind of distorted.
But they all have something, the fact that most people are reporting scenes that, according to them, are not at all.
Kind of weird, and they had like this little point. I don't know what that was.
Creepy, isn't it? Please take a turn. I went deeper into this topic in search of supposed being actually exists and what I came across. But before you any video, look at how this all started. I was posting this week's clips, John.
Never experienced. So, as I do every week, I make deliveries to the same for 7 months. It's the same guy. He's got a big garage. Which, his parts. We talk for a minute. He walks away. I go on my business. Today, I walked in and back to me, and he was working. He must have heard me. I don't. Actually, pretty quiet, I thought, but when he tried jump and kind of grabbed my mouth like that because I didn't know what to think, and he laughed a little bit and he called me jumpy, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm just not feeling very good, and I ended up to go. I reacted that way is because when I looked at him, he was different.
So demon
he
ass.
Didn't like the same I saw every other time. Color in his eyes. They were completely like black. Like you couldn't even see. It was just a black mass.
Black eyeball.
And for some reason, his ears are weird, and they had like this little point like that. I don't know what that was.
On to explain his theories on what happened. So curious, same time that the next week he goes back to the same. This is
massive update. Oh, black eyes. I went. My boss. Monday is a holiday. He's like, one day route today. That way we don't have to worry about it. Awesome. So I get deliveries. I had to stop at that. I just see him in the window like normal. I got like maybe a mile down the road. I just pulled over because everything in my stomach, my gut, my heart was like, you know what? Maybe you should have done this before. More questions I did before. It popped up was his. Underneath it said obituary. That he died.
Dad's not there.
Is completely freaked out. The man that he had in this week wasn't alive. So who was it that he had delivered the product to? Creepy, isn't it? After being posted, several people left comments stating that Chip has a gift and that he had encountered a spiritual, possibly a jinn, demon. But what's even creepier is the fact that there were dozens of comments similar experiences. Led me to the top.
I just got off of work. I went to go pick up a few. I go to the bread aisle.
I came across several videos of people similar experiences. Was uploaded by I Love Giggle 2, an internet profile focused on. But then there's this where she has encounter.
I'm at one end of the bread. There's a for the way down. He got a card. He's looking. See out your peripheral that somebody's staring at you. He ain't just staring at me. I his way. He's still staring. I go get my bread. I go back around the other. While I'm in the national out, this guy comes. He's at the top of this aisle. See him still looking at me. So he's still. So I kind of look at him and I go like, type look. He's still staring. I'm nothing in his cart. He's not even looking at food. Looking directly at me. I want this man stared at me and his eyes turned black. Everything in his whole eyeball, not just the pupil, but the white part, turned black. He looked there, and then he walked away. So I left that car.
Trick isn't it? Stop there. In the video, Trisha Pearls, she shares a similar. Check this out.
And then I turn around and I seen some kind of look. I was like maybe they like or something. Maybe they were like watching my YouTube or something. I was like, oh, hi, but no, no, it wasn't. I look over and like their eyes and their eyes like turn real black and then kind of distorted. I screamed and yelped, y'all. When I say,
the more I searched, the more videos I found. Searching for video evidence of the possible existence of humanoids. And this is came across a video posted by Mariana Ramos. Now Mariana was with her family at a church. They were recording an event. The time noticing strange after they uploaded the video to the end, that noticing the presence of a strange human out.
Pa nos mandó el video del templo. Notamos algo.
What is that? That was a lady that so there.
Whatever it is, family captured on camera, it left the entire internet. Now, because the video is quite short and there's very little information on it, it becomes difficult if this is spirituality and or maybe just a wearing a mask. But there's something quite odd about it. I'm not exactly sure. In this, person captures something while walking lot.
Nice, definitely.
Mind.
Few of him there like this.
Hey Shane, we go back over here.
I bet forehead reach.
Right. Yeah.
Look at his eyes. That is.
Pokes his head in.
While watching Ray's odd behavior coming from one of the security guards, he starts paying and notices something odd about his eyes. Whatever it is going on, it seems as if this person's eyes seem to be shut somehow, and closures seem to be. Why the internet ideas like this one? In some cases, it's very clear to me that these are just camera glitches, illusions. But in other cases, it's as if it could be real. But there's one particular video, no doubt.
Francamente me asusté porque digo, nunca se ha visto eso en la casa y por qué.
On September 2014, a family in Ecuador revenge video. It was so chill on several different stations all over. In the video, a boy sees a moment and everything seems to be good. The aimed at his tools next the camera recording. Seems the kitchen. He captures what looks being of some sort staring at.
Empezó a grabar lo que hacía primero su tatuaje en la espalda, luego el pequeño su rostro, giró el teléfono y lo dejó. Al final del registro, la criatura no se dieron cuenta de nada.
Did you see that? What looks like some sort of alien-like being staring at them from the... Whatever this thing is, most internet users seem to agree. One of the creepiest humanoids caught on camera. Some believe this is actually sort of shit. Others, this is possibly an old being, and that for some mysterious reason old phones can pick them up. Whatever this thing is, it's to be kept the wall. Also, it's nor a spirit, but like a regular human being. Its eyes are too big, and its skin is and seems to have some sort of stripe pattern on it. Whatever this thing is, family and the internet completely creeped out. Could it be that this captured evidence of alien-like beings lives? And why are sharing similar encounters with beings like this one in the US? What's your take?
They're amongst us, boys.
Imagine the situation. It's a sunny day. You're going for a boat trip for family. Everything needs to be perfect. The water is crystal, birds are chirping, and the people are having a good time. This is a spot what looks like even surfacing water. This is when you zoom in and you find out that whatever it is, it's too big to be any known animal. Now, this belief, you get the camera and you massacre to make sure that you're not things. Sounds like something coming out of my movement. Just a couple of weeks, the TikTok nature lover and OV. According, she was doing the Canadian railway journey, and all of a sudden, check this out. She recorded looks like a massive swoop stream. Though the footage here we can't exactly make out what it was, but video we can see it a bit better. Whatever this thing is, it's massive. Posting the internet, leaving comments stating that this could actually be Ogopogo, a mythical creature. Other internet users agree. They think it's just a boulder, and that because going on the opposite direction of the stream, it creates illusions. I'm not exactly sure I agree with that, and let me why. If we pay attention to the first video, it seems as this object is still submerged, and in the second video we can see it emerging from the water. The thing is, it's not a boulder. Some that this could be, but still, I'm not too sure about that. Canada strange stories of the Ogopogo that looks like the Loch monster and snake. Now, even though there are accounts of this host creature, there's still very little evidence. So could it be or actually capture the Ogopogo or anything else entirely? But when it comes with the unexplained, it doesn't stop there. In a video on the channel, we can see dogs barking what appears to other animals out of the fence. At a specific moment, this thing seems to jump at the dogs, and luckily for them, there's a fence holding it back. But it gets strange. If we take a close look at whatever this thing is invisible, dogs can see it doesn't pick it up. After being posted, the video amassed millions of views, thousands of comments, and most seem to agree that this could be a cloaked entity mostly known as Glimmerman. Now the Glimmerman is usually this like figure that can become nearly invisible by breaking into its surroundings. Many describe man as a human-like figure that appears almost translucent. These sightings occur in wood areas, suburbs, or near military installations. Could it be CCTV camera capture evidence of the existence of man, or is it something else? But when it really encounters, the following video was recorded in the small town of Posada, province of Misiones, Argentina. Now Posada populated 100,000 and is located on the bank of the Po and very close to the Iguazu Falls. In other words, it's beautiful by nature and historic attraction, but it's also believed to be by ancient spirits and creatures in the area. Stories and legends of hidden treasures, mystical creatures are usually told by indigenous people who inhabit the region. On June's wild break that Lydia Mende's husband caught some killing on camera.
What the heck? It was a bird
at first, he seemed to capture what looks like a gorg in the dish. It's when he slowly realized whatever this thing is. It's standing its own, scratching its back, just like a would. Creeped out, he posted a video to the internet as millions of views and thousands of comments. And while some believe that this is a spot, he state that this is possibly Bombero, a mythic creature from Guarani folklore, often described as a small, hairy being that roams Argentina. Now, because the video is very hard to affirm that this is indeed a Bombero, there are more videos of this supposed looking at. Some of them, it actually could be the real deal.
Look at it! Waiting to kidnap a little child. Get out of
But I want to know
there!
your thoughts. Do you think this could possibly be a gnome, a duende, or a bombero, or is it something else entirely? In 2001, Heidi Hollis was studying the topic of shadow people, and after extensive research came to the conclusion that these entities were dark, shadowy figures that often appeared during episodes of sleep paralysis, leading scientists to speculate that shadow people are just of our mind when we are waking up and is still in the state of REM atonia. Now, even though and researchers, shadow people are just a projection of our mind, to some cultures they're believed to be entities that can sometimes come in contact with the human world.
I didn't see it.
And I guess that this is the case with many. A Native American living in an indigenous reservation in the US. On February 2023, Manny was spending some family time with his niece and daughter when all of a sudden his niece starts acting strange. And this is what happened. Check this out.
It's something like it's crazy because like I know I'm just babysitting my niece and nephew. My nephew's right here. And it's her, and then she keeps pointing at something.
Over there again. She's brave.
What is that? Yeah, man. And then she grabbed this lantern right here. And I'm like, what the
For some mysterious reason, his niece kept consistently pointing towards a hallway. Manny gets up and starts recording a video, and this is when it falls from the balcony by itself. Now, pretty sure they're not all alone and that his niece is not just seeing things. He starts talking to whatever entity is in his home. And this is what happens.
You gotta get out of here, man. You gotta leave, man. Honestly.
No, you got to go.
You're not welcomed here. Leave. Whoever you are.
Man.
Your scared niece. Look, she keeps at you. Get out of here, man. This door is wide open over here, man. Or just, I don't know.
Where the TV?
She's like looking over there, like there's someone over there. She's freaking me out. Look, she's pointing. See? There's someone over there. I'm freaking out. Quit pointing at. I can keep pointing. Where's he at? Is he over there? Who is he? My niece keeps pointing at someone right here in this little hallway. I'm not really sure who it is, but yeah, she's like pointing upwards. They must be tall or something. Look, she's pointing again, look.
Did you see that? Well, you probably didn't, and neither did Manny. It was after putting this video to TikTok that many of his subscribers noticed what appears to be a shadow figure crossing the hallway very quickly. If we brighten up and zoom in on the video a couple of times, we can clearly see what looks like a short humanoid figure crossing the hallway very rapidly, and I guess that this is what his niece was pointing at. Whatever this thing is, it could be a shadow person or some sort of malevolent ghost. But when it comes to paranormal activity and shadow people, it doesn't stop there. On May 30th, Dante Sonier went to pick up his kid at school, and all of a sudden he notices something strange about a bus that was on the parking lot, and this is what he captured on camera.
You about to go walk up to this bus?
Yeah, I saw that one. The kids running around like, why?
What at first looks like several students walking inside the bus can be seen in the video. However, if we take a closer look, it looks as if the bus is empty. And just to make sure that he's not seeing things, Dante Sonier walks out of the car and towards the bus to double check that there's no one there.
Let's see. Let's go investigate.
Yeah, go investigate. Oh man.
An empty bus.
As Dante approaches the bus, he confirms the bus is empty. There's no one there. So what the heck is going on here?
What the heck is
While some internet users believe that this is just a reflection of cars passing on the highway, and it could be, others think that this is the real deal.
Okay, let's hear the plan.
What's really strange is that if we zoom in slow-mo on the video, it becomes very clear that these are not shadows of cars on the highway. It looks as if shadows of kids walking inside the bus. Creepy, isn't it? But it's even creepier in this next video posted by Nicolas Lautaro in Argentina. It was late at night when Nicholas had stopped at a traffic light. He looks to his left and notices something odd in one of the houses nearby. Trying to understand what was going on, he gets his camera and begins recording a very strange phenomena. Check this out. At first, we can see what appears to be a person walking back and forth inside one of the rooms. Nothing.
I have to say something quick. Sorry to interrupt, but this reminds me of when I went up to the Red Wine House where Dylan was forced to go and visit his dad, Mark Redwine, for Thanksgiving break and had been murdered. We knew that, but of course, the police have to do their investigation, etc. But we went up there for a paranormal investigation. I know I've told this story before, but in case you haven't heard it, we're standing at the cattle guard and Cat and Glow are like, hey, come on, like, come over here. We only have so much time. Hey, what's up, Adrian? Come on, we only have so much time. And me and Sadie just sat there on the other side of the cattle guard at the beginning of the entrance of the house, and we're like, there's somebody or something in the house. And it was running back and forth, like, very fast, at the rate of speed. And get rid of this right here. So it was not a person. Man, I don't know how to get rid of this. I know there's a way to delete it or get rid of it, but I don't know how to do it. Anyways, there was a dog-looking thing. It reminded me of Anubis, but its ears were shorter. And then come to find out from my roommate, he told me about a week later, he's like, yeah, when you came home at night, there was this black dog thing following you home. What? I wish he would have told us that sooner, because me and my daughter had an experience on the front porch. We heard growling, and then I got scratched a few times, and whatever it was did not like us investigating. But anywho's, that was creepy AF, but that was so freaking scary. But it was like that, like it was going, not just that portion of the window, but like back and forth so quickly. Ooh, it was creepy.
Nothing strange about that, right? But as time goes by, this person appears to walk faster and faster until a certain moment that it becomes so fast that we start questioning ourselves if this is indeed a person or something else entirely. So chat goes. Needless to say, the video quickly went viral, and while some internet users believe that this is just a person rolling around with skates, others think that this is a ghost, and this is mostly because no shadows on, and whatever this thing is, it has to be a regular human being. But I could be wrong. I want to know your thought. What do you think is really going on here? Have you ever seen a shadow person yourself? This is it for now, but we do have more videos. Don't forget to check them out, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.
So definitely go over to videos that will shatter your reality into pieces. So it's called the Impossible Channel. James LaFleur is the one that runs it, and he's amazing. He does a really, really good job with this. Anywho's, thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight. We are Paradox Media's Late Nights. We're going to have some good stuff coming up. More story time, more TikTok. Other thing, we have Mr. Chris, aka Dr. Macklin. He's going to be coming in talking about the whole cover up as far as the Vatican, etc., which we'll know they've been hiding stuff. And then the more that I watch and that I see, like miles and miles and miles worth of different things, whether like relics or scripts, scrolls, whatever. A lot of places that were thought to be burnt down, all the books and everything in these old ancient libraries, etc. They did burn these places down, but I do believe that they took a lot of these things out, and the Vatican has these, just like the Smithsonian has giant remnants, alien remnants, UFO relics, etc. It is amazing and intense, I must say. But thank you so much once again for Hello, silver-tongued cavalier. You just missed us. But yeah, just go back and rewatch from the beginning. It was we read from Douglas Adams, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. I always want to say galaxy, but it's the universe. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, hanging out with me tonight on your Paradox Media's Late Rockies. It was a pleasure having you and being here to entertain you. And thank you to all of our friends on We Are Paradox Media's Facebook, Spreaker, wherever you may be listening or watching Beyond the Omniverse tonight. I had such a good time. I can't wait to do it again next time, next weekend. Don't forget, you guys, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a bit better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is. Until next time, nighty night. Have a wonderful rest. Please don't work too hard. Don't take life too seriously. And let's stick it out together through all this hoopla, shall we? Anywho's, I'll see you back here next week. Same time, same crazy place. Nice to meet you, Silver Tongue Cavalier. Hope to see you next time. Anywho's, good night. Love you guys. Have a wonderful